Introduction: The Scribe in the Blood. I'm going to ask you to do something very simple, something you've probably done 1,000 times without paying attention. I want you to look at your hands. Turn them over. Observe the lines on your palms, the texture of your skin, the shape of your fingers. What you are seeing is not just matter. It is not just tissue, bone, and blood. What you have before your eyes is an ancient map. It is the end result of millions of years of survival, choices, disasters, and miracles. For centuries, we have been taught a fundamental lie about who we are. We have been told that we are the inevitable result of our inheritance. We have been told that our destiny is written in stone, or rather, in Codon inside the nucleus of our cells. We have been taught to say phrases like, "I have a bad temper because my father did," or "This disease runs in my family. It's only a matter of time before I get it." We have been sold the idea that DNA is a sentence, a closed script handed to you at birth, which you, as an obedient actor, must perform until the day you die, with no possibility of changing a single line of dialogue. But what if I told you that is false? What if I told you that DNA is not destiny but a database? What if I told you that biology is not a solid rock, but a fluid river that changes its course depending on what you think, how you feel, and how you observe the world? Welcome to Alchemical Epigenetics. To understand this journey, we must first redefine who you are. You are not a biological accident, you are a living library. Within every one of your cells, coiled in that famous double helix, lies the complete history of your lineage. But it's not just about the color of your eyes or the shape of your nose. Your blood remembers things your conscious mind has forgotten or never even knew. Your DNA holds the memory of the hunger your great-grandfather experienced during the war. It holds the fear of persecution of your distant ancestors. It holds the pain of childbirth, the euphoria of victories, the unspoken secrets, and the silenced traumas. Modern science has confirmed what shamans and mystics have known for millennia. Memory does not reside only in the brain. Memory is cellular. We call this the biological Akashic Record. The traditional concept of the Akashic Record speaks of an ethereal library in the cosmos where everything is recorded. But the truth is much more intimate and visceral. The Akasha is imprinted in your own flesh. You are the book. And until now you have been reading the pages written by others, your parents, your grandparents, your culture, your inherited fears. But this is where the alchemy comes in. The word epigenetics literally means above the genetics. It refers to the chemical markers that land on your DNA and tell it what to do. If DNA is the hardware, the physical computer epigenetics is the software, and the programmer of that software is you. Every time you have a thought of gratitude, you change your blood chemistry. Every time you forgive an offense, you rewrite the instruction of your cells. Every time you meditate and achieve a state of heart coherence, you are sending an electromagnetic signal that penetrates the cell membrane and tells the nucleus, "Do not activate the disease gene. Activate the regeneration gene." This is pure alchemy. Ancient alchemy sought to transmute lead into gold. We seek to transmute the lead of our genetic trauma, illness, depression, lack into the gold of awakened consciousness, health, vitality, wisdom. In this audiobook, we are going to challenge the notion of time. We are going to explore that mysterious 98% of your DNA that scientists, in their arrogance, called junk DNA simply because they didn't understand its function. We will discover that this junk is actually a fractal antenna, designed to connect you to the quantum field of infinite information. It is your Wi-Fi connection to the divine. You are not here to be a victim of your code. You are here to be its master. You are here to take the pen and start editing the sacred text of your own life. What you are about to hear is not just information, it is a key. Once you understand how your sacred biology works, you will not be able to fall asleep again. You will not be able to blame your past again, because you will realize that you have the power to heal your past from your present. Prepare yourself. We are going to enter the inner laboratory. We are going to light the fire of the observer. We are going to read what is written in your blood, and if we don't like what it says, we are going to have the audacity to erase it and write something new. Chapter 1: The Living Parchment. Imagine for a moment that you could reduce your size. Imagine that you could become so small, so infinitesimal that you could pass through the pores of your own skin as if they were immense lunar craters. If you could travel inward, past the red rivers of your veins, beyond the muscular structures that support your skeleton, you would arrive at the fundamental sanctuary of life, the cell. You have approximately 50 trillion of these cells working at this very instant. 50 trillion microscopic citizens cooperating in silent harmony so that you can be there, sitting, listening to these words. But let's not stop at the cell surface. Let's go deeper. Let's cross the outer membrane and navigate the cytoplasm until we reach the sanctum sanctorum, the most sacred place in this biological temple, the nucleus. There, floating in an aqueous medium and protected as the most valuable treasure in the universe, is the parchment. We know it as deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. We have seen its form represented in textbooks, documentaries, and medical logos, the famous double helix, a spiral staircase revolving on itself in an eternal dance. But have you ever really stopped to think about what that structure is? If you took the DNA from just one of your cells, just one, and unraveled it completely, that microscopic strand would measure almost 2 meters long. 2 meters of information compressed into a space invisible to the human eye. Now, multiply that by the 50 trillion cells that compose you. If you connected all your DNA in a single line, you could go from Earth to the Sun and back, not once, but hundreds of times. You carry within you a rope of light and chemistry long enough to tie up the solar system. For most of the 20th century, materialist science looked at this structure with awe, but also with dogmatic limitation. In 1953, when Watson and Crick, building on the crucial and often overlooked work of Rosalind Franklin, revealed the double helix structure, the world celebrated. We had found the secret of life. But immediately afterwards, we fell into a philosophical trap. What was called the central dogma in biology was established. This dogma postulated that information flows in only one direction, from DNA to RNA and from RNA to protein. In simple terms, they told us, DNA is the boss. DNA commands. You obey. According to this view, which is still taught in many schools, you are a biological robot built by your genes. If your code says diabetes, you will have diabetes. If it says anxiety, you will be anxious. If it says premature death, you will die young. According to the central dogma, consciousness is just a chemical byproduct, and free will is an illusion. You were considered a victim of your inheritance, a prisoner of the genetic lottery your parents played the night you were conceived. This mechanistic view turned the human body into a predetermined machine. We were told that the parchment was written in indelible ink, that the stone was carved and there was no chisel capable of modifying it. But then, something unexpected happened. At the beginning of the 21st century, the Human Genome Project was completed. It was one of the greatest feats in our scientific history. The promise was that, by mapping all human genes, we would find the cause and cure for all diseases. Scientists expected to find one gene for every complex trait and function of the human being. Since we are incredibly complex beings, much more so than a worm or a plant, it was calculated that we would need at least 120,000 genes to build a human body and a brain capable of composing symphonies or designing spaceships. When the final results arrived, the scientific community was in shock. Absolute silence in the labs. We did not have 120,000 genes, nor 100,000. It turned out that the human being has approximately 23,000 genes. To put this into perspective, a microscopic worm called C. elegans has about 20,000 genes. A water flea has 31,000 genes. Rice has more genes than you. How is this possible? How can it be that the crown of creation, the human being with its neocortex and its capacity to love and hate, is built with almost the same Lego pieces as a simple worm? The answer shattered the old paradigm and opened the door to biological alchemy. The discovery was brutal in its simplicity. It's not the quantity of genes that matters, but how they are used. Imagine a piano, a magnificent grand piano. The piano has 88 keys. Those keys are your genes. They are fixed. You cannot change the keys. If you were born with blue eyes, that is a fixed key. If you have a certain bone predisposition, that is a key. The hardware is limited. But with those same 88 keys, a child can play a simple, repetitive song that gives you a headache. Or a master like Beethoven can compose a sonata that makes you weep with emotion and elevates your spirit. The magic is not in the keys. The magic is in the pianist. This is where we enter the sacred territory of epigenetics. The word comes from the Greek epi, above, and genesis, origin. Literally it means control over the origin. Science discovered that surrounding the DNA double helix is another layer of information, a structure of proteins and chemical markers. This layer acts as the pianist. This layer decides which keys are played and which are silenced. And the most revolutionary thing of all is what controls that pianist. It is not chance. It is not just physical nutrition. What tells your cells which genes to activate and which to deactivate is the signal from the environment. And for a human cell, the environment is not just the external climate. The environment is the chemistry of your blood, and the chemistry of your blood is dictated by your nervous system, your perception, your beliefs, and your emotions. If you live in fear, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. Those chemicals travel to the cell nucleus and play the keys of defense, inflammation, and flight. They silence the keys of growth, immunity, and repair. If you live in gratitude and love, your body releases dopamine, oxytocin, and growth hormones. Those chemicals travel to the nucleus and play a different melody. They activate the genes that regenerate tissues, lengthen life, and enhance the brain. Do you understand what this means? It means that the parchment is not written in stone. It is written in a living, dynamic, and receptive code. It means that every thought you have had in the last hour has been editing your biology. It means that you are not the victim of your DNA. You are the editor. You are the alchemist who can transmute the genetic instruction. The parchment is real, yes. The double helix exists. It is a structure of sacred geometry and a periodic crystal, as Schrödinger predicted, capable of containing the information of life. But for too long we have worshipped the book while forgetting the reader. In this first part of our journey, I want you to shed the weight of determinism. I want you to feel, physically, how that idea of "I am this way because I was born this way" dissolves. Your body is a cathedral in constant construction. The bricks are the proteins, but the architect is your consciousness, and in the center of that cathedral, the Ark of the Covenant, your DNA is not locked up. It is waiting for instructions. But there is an even greater mystery. Because if the genes that code for proteins, the instructions for making the physical body, are only 23,000 and occupy barely 2% of all your DNA, what the hell is the other 98%? For decades, science called it junk DNA. They thought they were evolutionary leftovers, debris from ancient viruses, meaningless noise. How wrong they were. That 98% is not junk. It is the link to the divine. It is the Akashic Record, and that is where we are going to enter now. The quantum scribe and the ocean of information. Let's delve into the shadow, into what is not seen. Imagine you enter an immense ancient library with ceilings lost in darkness. On the shelves you see ordered books. They are the technical manuals: how to build a liver, how to synthesize collagen, how to regulate insulin. Those books represent the 2% of your DNA, the exons, the part that science has studied ad nauseum. They are the recipes for creating the matter of your body. But then you look around. 98% of the library is not books. It is empty space. It is silent corridors. They are strange symbols painted on the walls that seem to say nothing. They are blank parchments. The geneticists of the 20th century, seeing that these parts did not produce proteins, did not create physical things, assumed they served no purpose. They called it junk DNA. It was the biggest act of arrogance in modern biology. It's as if aliens found a book of human poetry and, not understanding the metaphors or the spaces between the stanzas, decided that only the words describing physical objects were real and crossed out the rest as junk. Today we know the truth. Or at least we are beginning to glimpse it through the lens of quantum physics and wave linguistics. That 98% non-coding part is a hypercommunication control system. It is a language, and not just a biological language, but a quantum language. The most avant-garde studies, many of them stemming from Russian biophysics, such as those by Pyotr Garjajev's team, suggest that this part of the DNA functions as a complex grammatical structure. It has syntax, it has semantics. And the most shocking thing, it functions as a holographic antenna. This is where the concept of Akashic Record ceases to be an esoteric metaphor and becomes a biophysical possibility. The term Akasha comes from Sanskrit and means ether, sky, or primordial space. In Hindu philosophy, it is the basic element from which all others arise: earth, water, fire, air. It is the memory of the universe. It is the field where every event, every thought, and every emotion that has occurred since the Big Bang is recorded as a vibration. Your DNA, specifically that mysterious 98%, is the hardware designed to connect to that cosmic Wi-Fi. Your body does not store all information inside the brain, just as your mobile phone does not store all of the internet in its internal memory. Your phone is an access terminal. Your DNA is the receiving and transmitting antenna. Why is this crucial for you today? Because it explains phenomena that mechanistic biology cannot explain. It explains intuition, that sudden certainty you have without going through a logical process. It is your DNA picking up a fluctuation in the information field before it occurs in linear time. It explains remote healing, how the directed intention of one person can alter the physiology of another miles away. If we are both connected to the same Akashic server and have our antennas, DNA, tuned, physical distance is irrelevant. But there is something deeper, the function of record. We have said that DNA is a parchment, but it is not a passive parchment where only reading takes place. It is a parchment where writing takes place. Every intense emotion you have experienced has left a footprint, not just in your psychological memory, but in the geometric configuration of this non-coding DNA. Trauma is recorded. Love is recorded. And here comes the alchemical part of the equation. Alchemy is not the science of manipulating metals. It is the science of manipulating frequencies. Lead is a dense, slow, and heavy frequency. Gold is a high, fast, and solar frequency. Your inherited traumas, your chronic fears, your recurring illnesses are biological lead. They are low-frequency patterns stored in your internal library, distorting the signal you receive from the field. It's like having a dirty or poorly tuned antenna. Instead of receiving the clear music of the universe, you receive static, noise, and confusion. The proposal of this book, and of this journey we begin today, is that you can clean the antenna. You can rewrite the code. You don't need an external laboratory. You don't need CRISPR gene editing technology. You have the most advanced technology in the universe installed in your own being, focused consciousness, and intended word. It has been experimentally demonstrated that DNA reacts to language. The frequencies of human speech, when modulated with a clear and coherent intention, as in prayer, mantras, or hypnosis, can alter the structure of DNA, repairing defects that X-rays or chemicals could not touch. DNA understands your language, literally, because your language is a fractal derivation of the universal code that DNA is made of. You speak the same language as your cells. You have just forgotten how to communicate with them. You have been talking to your body with fear, with complaint, with judgment, you have been giving it orders for destruction. I'm fed up. This makes me sick and I'm worthless. And your faithful scribe, the DNA, has been writing down every order and executing it, creating the biological reality that matches your decrees. It is time to change the conversation. It is time to dismiss the old scribe, who only recorded disasters, and hire the quantum scribe. Chapter 2, Somatic Archaeology. There are moments in life when you feel a nameless fear. You are sitting on your sofa in a safe house with the door locked and the fridge full. There are no predators lurking. There are no wars on your street. Your life on paper is stable, and yet suddenly a wave of panic floods your chest. Your heart starts racing as if you were running for your life. Your hands sweat. You feel a tightness in your throat, an absolute irrational certainty that something terrible is about to happen. Or perhaps it is a profound sadness, a leaden melancholy that has accompanied you since childhood, a feeling of mourning for someone you never knew, a loss you cannot place on your calendar. You go to the psychologist. You search your childhood. Maybe it was something that happened to me when I was 5, you think. You analyze your personal traumas, your breakups, your failures, but sometimes you find nothing to justify the magnitude of your pain. The pieces don't fit. The reaction is disproportionate to the stimulus. I have news for you, and it is both terrifying and liberating. That fear is not yours. That sadness does not belong to you. You are feeling, with perfect biochemical precision, the terror your great-grandfather felt in a trench 80 years ago. You are crying the tears your grandmother swallowed when she lost her first child and did not allow herself to grieve because she had to keep working in the field. Welcome to Somatic Archaeology. Today we are going to stop looking at your personal biography and start reading your ancestral biography, because your body does not start with you. Your body is the current chapter of a novel that began being written centuries ago. For a long time, psychology and biology operated separately. Psychologists told us we were a tabula rasa, a blank slate molded by our upbringing and direct environment. Biologists told us we inherited eye color and a propensity for baldness, but that our emotions and memories died with us. Modern epigenetics has destroyed that barrier. Today we know that traumatic experience leaves a molecular scar. To understand this, we need to talk about mice and cherry blossoms. In a fascinating and moving experiment conducted at Emory University, a group of scientists decided to investigate whether the memory of fear could be biologically transmitted. They took a group of male mice and exposed them to the smell of cherry blossoms, a chemical substance called acetophenone. Every time the mice smelled the cherry, they received a small electric shock on their paws. It wasn't lethal, but it was painful and frightening. Very soon the mice learned the lesson. Simply releasing the cherry scent into the air was enough for the mice to start trembling with fear, even without the shock. Their nervous system associated cherry smell, danger of death. So far it's classic conditioning, nothing new. Pavlov would be proud, would. But then the scientists allowed these mice to breed. Their offspring, the second generation, never knew their fathers, to prevent learning by imitation. They grew up in separate, safe cages, without electric shocks. They had never smelled the cherry blossom. When these offspring reached adulthood, the scientists introduced the cherry scent into their cage. The reaction was immediate and violent. The mice panicked. They fled. They trembled. They showed the same levels of stress hormones as their fathers. How could they be afraid of something they had never experienced? How did they know that sweet smell meant pain? The experiment went further. They waited for the third generation, the grandchildren of the original mice. The result was the same. Upon smelling the cherry, the grandchildren reacted with extreme anxiety. They literally had more neurons in their noses dedicated to detecting that specific smell and a brain hardwired to react to it. The trauma of the grandfather had become the biology of the grandson. What was a life experience for the grandfather, a painful learning, became an instinct, a factory setting for the grandson. Now transfer this to the human experience. We are not laboratory mice, but our biological machinery is unsettlingly similar. Think of civil wars. Think of famines. Think of epidemics. Think of forced migrations. Think of the women who had to silence abuse to survive in oppressive marriages. Think of the men who had to harden their hearts and disconnect from their emotions in order to kill or die on the front line. Those experiences generated a flood of stress chemicals, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. That chemical cocktail bathed their reproductive cells. And to protect the offspring, the body did something clever. It left a note. This is called DNA methylation. Imagine DNA as an instruction book. Methylation does not tear out pages or rewrite the text. The gene sequence does not change. Methylation is like putting a bright red sticky note over a specific paragraph that says, "Important, read with caution," or "danger." Activate this defense system at the slightest indication. If your grandmother went through a terrible famine when she was pregnant with your mother, her body learned a vital lesson. Food is scarce. Every calorie must be saved. Fat must be stored desperately to survive. That lesson was epigenetically marked on the fetus, your mother. Your mother was born with a saver metabolism, and when your mother had you, she passed that red sticker to you. Today you live in a world of abundance with stocked supermarkets, but your body continues to act as if it were in the famine of 1940. You have a tendency to gain weight. You find it hard to lose weight. You feel a ravenous anxiety for carbohydrates. You blame yourself. You say you lack willpower. You go to the gym and get frustrated. It's not lack of willpower. It's biological loyalty. Your body is honoring your grandmother's trauma. Your body is trying to save you from a famine that no longer exists, but which for your cells remains a real threat. This is somatic archaeology. It is digging beneath the symptom to find the story. You are not defective. You are designed to survive in a dangerous world that has passed. You are a bunker built for a war that ended decades ago, but no one told the soldier guarding the door, your amygdala, that he can now put down his weapon. Understanding this is the first step to stop fighting yourself. When you realize that your anxiety, depression, or autoimmune disease is not your fault, but an outdated adaptive solution from your ancestors, the guilt disappears. And in the space left by guilt, compassion enters, and with compassion the alchemy begins. Invisible loyalty and the ritual of liberation. If the first part of this chapter was about the biology of the ghost, now we are going to talk about how to exorcise it. But I am not referring to a horror movie exorcism, but to an act of profound and conscious love. In the world of systemic therapy and family constellations, there is a concept called invisible loyalty. It is an unwritten law of the clan. It is the blind love of the child who says, "Dad, Mom, I see you suffering. I see you carrying a heavy burden. Out of love for you, I will carry it too. If you are sick, I have no right to be healthy. If you are unhappy in love, I will sabotage my relationship so as not to be happier than you, because that would be a betrayal." This sounds irrational to the logical adult mind. No conscious parent would want their child to suffer, but the biological unconscious does not understand logic. It understands belonging. For the human mammal, belonging to the clan is synonymous with survival. Being excluded from the tribe meant death in ancient times. Therefore, being like them, even if like them means being depressed, poor, or sick, is a way to guarantee our place in the pack. We copy the patterns of pain as a way of saying, "I am one of you." The problem is that this loyalty is useless. Your suffering does not alleviate the suffering of your ancestors. Your anxiety does not calm the fear your great-grandfather experienced in the war. Your economic problems do not dignify the poverty of your immigrant grandparents. On the contrary, by repeating the pattern, you make it sterile. You turn the pain into an infinite loop that leads nowhere. The true alchemy occurs when you transform blind loyalty into enlightened loyalty. How is this done? How do we tell our DNA to remove those red stickers of maximum alert? Here we move into practice. It is not enough to understand it intellectually. You have to feel it viscerally. The language of DNA, as we saw, is emotion and intention. You need to have a conversation with your dead. You don't need to be a medium or believe in ghosts. Your dead live in you. They are in the shape of your legs, in your blood type, and in the structure of your limbic system. Talking to them is talking to your own cells. Imagine or visualize, if you can, that your parents are behind you, and behind them their parents, and behind them their parents, a human pyramid expanding backward into the darkness of time. If you look back, you will see stories of much pain. You will see alcoholism. You will see violence. You will see submission. You will see shameful secrets. It is easy to judge them. It is easy to say, "My grandfather was a tyrant. My mother was weak." But judgment closes the heart, and a closed heart cannot edit DNA. Positive epigenetics requires a frequency of acceptance. You must look at that ancestor, the one whose symptom you suspect you are carrying, and acknowledge their destiny. Suppose you detect that your irrational fear of scarcity comes from your grandfather who lost everything in a crisis. The alchemical act consists of telling him internally, "Grandfather, I see your fear. I see how much you suffered. I see that you went hungry so that Dad could eat, and thanks to that I am here today. Your fear served you to survive. It was useful then. I honor you for it." But today that fear is no longer necessary. The war is over. There is food on my table today. In honor of you and so that your suffering was not in vain, I am going to allow myself to live in abundance. I am going to be the dream you could not fulfill. Notice the difference. You are not rejecting the inheritance, I don't want this. You are updating the inheritance. You are telling your biology, thank you for this survival tool, fear, anxiety, but it no longer matches the current environment. Please deactivate the emergency protocol. When you do this with true emotional intention, when you cry that liberating tear, when you feel a weight lift from your shoulders, the biological magic happens. Your genes begin to express themselves differently. The chemical methylation stickers begin to peel off. Recent studies in neurobiology show that memory reconsolidation allows the emotional charge of a memory to be modified. When you bring the past into the present and change its ending, going from fear to gratitude, you rewire your brain. And because your brain controls the chemistry of your blood, you change the chemical bath of your cells. You become the chain breaker. Many of us, those who are awakening in this era, are what I call the lineage seekers. We are the ones born with the unspoken mission to clean the house. Have you ever felt like the black sheep of the family? The weird one, the different one, the one who questions the rules, the one who seeks therapy, the one who reads books like this? You are not the black sheep. You are the light sheep. You are the member of the clan who has developed enough consciousness to stop the wheel of family karma. You are the one who is going to say, the abuse stops with me. The poverty stops with me. The sickness of silence stops with me. And the beautiful thing is that this does not only heal you. Quantum physics suggests that time is not linear. By healing yourself, you send a wave of relief backward towards your ancestors because you release them from the pending task. And most importantly, you send a wave of freedom forward towards your children and your children's children. If you clear your epigenome, if you remove the trauma stickers, you will not pass them on to your descendants. Your children will be born free from the fear of famine they never lived. They will be born free from the distrust of men or women that your grandparents inherited. You will give them a cleaner starting point. This is somatic archaeology. It is not about digging up bones to cry over them. It is about digging up hidden treasures under the mud of trauma. Because beneath your grandfather's fear was his courage. Beneath your grandmother's sadness was her immense capacity to love. When you clear the trauma, the lead, you are left with the strength, the gold. You inherit the resilience, not the pain. You inherit the wisdom, not the wound. Chapter 3. The Myth of Junk DNA. Nature is, above all, a ruthless economist. If you observe a forest, you will see that nothing is wasted. A fallen leaf becomes fertilizer. A dead animal feeds insects. The carbon dioxide you exhale is food for the trees. The universe operates under a law of brutal efficiency. If something is useless, evolution eliminates it. If an organ ceases to be useful, it atrophies and disappears over millennia. Biology is expensive. Maintaining living tissue costs energy, and the body does not spend energy on unnecessary luxuries. Therefore, when geneticists in the 1970s coined the term junk DNA to refer to the vast majority of our genome, they committed one of the greatest acts of intellectual arrogance in the history of science. It was a conclusion born of blindness. Scientists had deciphered the code for proteins. They knew that certain genes, approximately 1.5% or 2% of your DNA, contained the instructions for manufacturing insulin, collagen, hemoglobin, etc. They were the building blocks. But when they looked at the rest, the other 98%, they didn't see building blocks. They saw repetitive sequences, deactivated ancient viruses, long stretches of code that seemed nonsensical. Because they didn't manufacture proteins, they didn't create physical things, scientists assumed they did nothing. It's evolutionary garbage, they said. It's accumulated debris from millions of years of trial and error. It's there, it takes up space, but it's useless. Imagine a caveman finding a modern smartphone lying on the ground. The man examines it. He sees he can use it as a black mirror to see his reflection. He sees it is hard and can be used to crack nuts, but he doesn't understand what the microchips, the battery, or the antenna are. Since the phone is useless for hunting or making fire, the only functions he values, he decides the device is mostly junk. The 20th century geneticists were that caveman. Since 98% of the DNA did not produce physical matter, proteins, they decided it was useless. But you and I know something fundamental. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is context. In recent years, thanks to massive projects like ENCODE, Encyclopedia of DNA Elements, science has had to swallow its words. We have discovered that junk is frantically active. It is not sleeping. It is directing. It turns out that mysterious 98% is the control panel. If the 2% are the bricks, the 98% are the architects. That non-coding DNA contains millions of molecular switches. It is a complex operating system that decides when, where, and with what intensity the bricks are manufactured. Think of it this way. You and a chimpanzee share almost 99% of the genes that code for proteins. You have the same bricks, blood, bone, hair, eyes. Yet, you write poetry, design skyscrapers, and wonder about the meaning of life, while the chimpanzee worries about finding fruit and delousing. Where is the difference if the bricks are the same? The difference is in the junk. The difference is in the software that organizes those bricks. Your non-coding DNA is much more complex and sophisticated than that of any other animal. It is there, in the misnamed junk where your humanity resides. But let's go deeper. Official science has reached this point. They admit it is a regulatory system. But alchemical epigenetics invites us to take a leap of faith. Why are there so many repetitive sequences? Why are there mathematical patterns that resemble human linguistics? Why does DNA emit light? This is where the concept of biological dark matter comes in. In astrophysics, we know that visible matter, stars, planets, galaxies, is only 5% of the universe. The rest is dark energy and dark matter, invisible forces that hold the galaxy together. Without that darkness, the stars would fly apart, and the universe would disintegrate. Your body works the same way. That 98% of dark DNA is what maintains the coherence of your being, and its function is not only chemical, it is holographic and communicative. Imagine a symphony orchestra. You have the musicians, the coding genes with their instruments. If everyone plays when they want, you have noise. You have chaos. For there to be music, you need something else. You need a score and a conductor. The non-coding DNA is the orchestra conductor who plays no instrument, does not create proteins, but who, with a subtle movement of his baton, makes the violins fall silent and the trumpets enter. That silence, that pause, that invisible coordination is what turns noise into Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Now ask yourself, where does the conductor get his instructions? Where does the music come from? If the coding DNA builds the hardware, the body, the non-coding DNA is the antenna that downloads the software from the cloud. We have been looking for consciousness in the wrong place. We have looked for consciousness in neurons, in chemistry, in matter. But consciousness is not in the radio. Consciousness is the signal the radio receives. That 98% of your genome is an advanced biological technology designed to capture information that is not stored locally in your brain. It is the bridge between the world of particles, matter, and the world of waves, spirit. You are not carrying junk in your blood. You are carrying the most sophisticated telecommunication system in the cosmos, and all your life it has been trying to communicate things to you that you have ignored because you thought they were just your imagination. You have heard the static. You have felt hunches. You have had premonitory dreams. That is not magic. It is your biological dark matter functioning. It is your antenna picking up a signal from the quantum field. But because we were taught that this was junk, we turned off the receiver. We let it rust. Today we are going to turn it back on. Because to become the alchemist of your life, you need to stop operating only with the local hard drive and start navigating the infinite network, wormholes and the language of God. If the first part was to cleanse scientific arrogance, this second part is to open the mind to the mystical possibility. Hold on tight, because we are going to enter the realm of wave genetics, There is a branch of science developed mainly in Russia by biophysicists like Pyotr Garyajev that proposes something fascinating. DNA does not function only as chemistry. It functions as language and as light. This team of scientists analyzed the vibrational pattern of non-coding DNA, the supposed junk, and discovered that it follows the same grammatical rules as human language. It has syntax, it has semantics, it has basic grammar rules. This is monumental. It means that human languages were not invented arbitrarily. They are a reflection, an echo outward of the vibrational structure already written in DNA. We speak because our DNA is a text. But they discovered something even more unsettling. Living DNA in live tissue, not a test tube, reacts to radio waves and light modulated by language if the correct frequencies are used. In their experiments, they managed to repair chromosomes damaged by X-rays using simply vibration and light coded with linguistic information. No scalpel, no chemicals, just information. This scientifically validates the power of prayer, mantras, affirmations, and hypnosis. When you speak with intention and focus, you are not casting words to the wind. You are introducing programming commands into the console of your non-coding DNA. But let's go to the most dizzying concept of all, hypercommunication. Garyajev and his team proposed that DNA has the capacity to generate magnetized wormholes on a microscopic level. In theoretical physics, a wormhole, or Einstein-Rosen bridge, is a tunnel connecting two distant points in the universe, or even two different dimensions, allowing information to travel instantly, circumventing the speed of light and linear time. The theory is that your junk DNA acts as a microscopic stargate. It captures information that is outside of space-time. This is what we call the Akashic Record. The Akasha is not a library with paper books in a cloud. The Akasha is the zero-point field. It is the quantum vacuum that contains all possible information, and your DNA is the terminal that accesses that field. Think about it. How do you explain intuition? That moment when you know someone you love is in danger, even though they are across the ocean, and seconds later, the phone rings. Classical biology would say it's coincidence, because there are no physical wires connecting your brain to that person's. But quantum physics says, there is no separation. If your DNA and that of your loved one are quantumly entangled, and they are because love is a potent quantum entangler, the information passes through these micro wormholes. Your junk DNA receives the perturbation in the field and translates it into a physical emotion, a knot in the stomach, a racing heart. Your body knew before your logical mind. Your junk warned you. This also happens with creative inspiration. Great musicians, mathematicians, and poets have always said the same thing. I didn't invent it. It came to me. I downloaded it. I heard it in my head already complete. Mozart said he saw entire symphonies in an instant and only had to write them down. Tesla saw his inventions working in his mind before building a single screw. Where does that information come from? It comes from the field, and it enters through the back door of your non-coding DNA. When you are in a state of deep relaxation, meditation, or creative flow, the noise of your analytical mind, the 2000% logic, calms down, and then the 98th percentile antenna activates. The wormhole opens, and the genius of the universe flows through you. Insects use this hypercommunication all the time. A colony of ants or bees functions as a single brain. If you separate the queen from the hive by miles, the bees still instinctively know how the queen is and what to do. They have a constant biological internet. The human being also has it, but we have something that bees don't have, ego. The ego is interference in the signal. The ego is the sense of separation. I am me and you are you. That belief creates static. It closes the wormholes. It disconnects us from the network. The great tragedy of the modern human is that they have a quantum supercomputer in their blood, but they use it only as a basic calculator. We have access to the wisdom of the ages, the cure for our own ailments, telepathic connection with others. But we live isolated, scared, and limited, believing that we are only flesh and blood. The myth of junk DNA was the padlock they put on us so we wouldn't open that door. They told us, there is nothing there, don't look, and we stopped looking. But now you know the truth. You know that that immense ocean of silent code is your greatest treasure. It is your dark matter. It is your magic. How is it activated? How is it used? You don't need complex machines. The access key is the frequency. Human emotion is the tuning tool. Fear is a low, slow, dense frequency. Fear closes the antenna. When you are afraid, your DNA contracts, literally, and only reads the basic survival codes of the 2 bells per cent dollars. You become a frightened animal. Love, gratitude, and compassion are high, fast, and coherent frequencies. When you feel true love, when you feel gratitude for no reason, the helical structure of your DNA relaxes and expands. The microtunnels open. The signal enters. You stop being an isolated individual fighting the world and become a conscious node of the universal network. You start getting lucky. Synchronicities increase. You meet the right person at the right time. The answers to your problems appear in a book that falls off a shelf or in a phrase you hear on the street. That is not chance. That is quantum navigation. You are operating with 100% dollars of your system, not 2% dollars. Chapter 4: The Ghost in the Machine. For centuries, humanity has lived under monarchies, both political and intellectual. We like the idea of a king, a central leader, a supreme authority that dictates laws from an unmoving throne. In biology, that undisputed king has been, for the last 100 years, the nucleus of the cell. In school, university, and documentaries, we have been taught a clear hierarchy. The cell is the body, and the nucleus, where the DNA resides, is the brain. We were told that the nucleus makes the decisions, that the nucleus commands when to grow, when to divide, and when to die. Under this view, the rest of the cell is just an obedient subject, a factory of blind workers following the instructions of the genetic monarch. This metaphor of the nucleus as brain is the basis of genetic determinism. If the brain of the cell is the DNA, and you were born with that DNA, then you have no choice. The king has decreed your destiny before you were born, and you are merely the peasant who suffers the consequences. But today we are going to commit an act of scientific regicide. Today we are going to unseat the king, because it turns out that biology has been telling us the story backward. The nucleus is not the brain. The nucleus has never been the brain. How can we be so sure? Because of a simple, brutal, and fascinating experiment called enucleation. If I tell you that the human brain is the vital organ that controls life, it's easy to prove. If we extract a person's brain, the organism dies instantly. Bodily functions cease. Life turns off. The brain is indispensable for the immediate management of existence. Now let's apply this logic to the cell. If the nucleus were the brain, upon removing it, the cell should die instantly, right? Scientists do this routinely in laboratories. They take a cell, insert a micropipette, and suction out the nucleus, extracting all the DNA. They leave the cell empty of genes, without a king. What happens? Does the cell die? No. The cell stays alive. And it doesn't just stay alive in a vegetative state. The enucleated cell continues to behave with astonishing intelligence. It continues to breathe. It continues to digest nutrients. It continues to move and flee from toxins. It continues to recognize other cells and communicate with them. It can survive like this for 2 or 3 months, functioning perfectly without genes, until it finally dies. And this is key, it doesn't die because it lacks a brain. It dies because it cannot reproduce or repair its worn-out parts. This changes the entire paradigm. If the cell can live, think, and make complex decisions without the nucleus, then the nucleus is not the brain. So what is the nucleus? The nucleus is the gonad. It is the reproductive organ. The nucleus contains the blueprints for making a new cell, reproduction, and the blueprints for manufacturing spare parts, proteins. But the nucleus does not think. The nucleus is a passive library. A book doesn't decide when to be read. An architectural blueprint doesn't decide when to build the house. Someone has to enter the library, take out the book, and read it. Someone has to look at the blueprint and lay the brick. If the nucleus is the gonad and the library, who is the architect? Who is the true brain that makes the moment-to-moment decisions? The answer has been right under our noses all along, but it was so thin, so subtle, and apparently so simple that we ignored it. The true brain of the cell is its skin. It is the cell membrane. Imagine a microscopic soap bubble. For decades, biologists thought the membrane was simply that, a biological plastic bag made of lipids whose only function was to keep the contents in and the water out. They thought it was a passive wall, a container. Skin doesn't think, they said. How wrong they were. Thanks to electron microscopy and modern biophysics, we now know that that skin is an organic engineering structure of a sophistication that makes our best computers look like children's toys. The membrane is not a wall. It is a liquid crystal semiconductor with gates and channels. That definition is not poetic. It is technical. It has the structure of a crystal, ordered, but it is fluid, liquid, and it functions exactly like a silicon chip in your computer. It is a semiconductor. It decides what enters and what exits. It decides what is information and what is noise. Let's analyze this magic skin. The membrane is barely 7/millionths of a millimeter thick. It is so thin that it can only be seen with an electron microscope. It is formed by a lipid bilayer, molecules with a head that loves water and a tail that hates it. They align like soldiers, forming an impermeable barrier. If that were all it was, it would be a raincoat. Nothing would enter or leave. The cell would starve to death. But embedded in that skin, like islands floating in the sea or sentinels on a rampart, are thousands upon thousands of integral membrane proteins, IMPs. These proteins are the cell's sense organs. They are its eyes, its ears, its nose, and its mouth. And this is where the magic happens. These proteins are divided into two groups, receptors and effectors. The receptors are antennas, literally. They are molecular structures that protrude outward from the cell, constantly scanning the environment. There are receptors for insulin, receptors for histamine, receptors for light, receptors for sound, and receptors for emotions. Each antenna is tuned to capture a specific signal. When the signal, say an adrenaline molecule, appears in the environment, it locks onto the antenna like a key in a lock. Click. The receptor changes shape, and by changing shape, it nudges the effector. The effector is the one that executes the action. It opens a gate in the membrane to let in nutrients, or it sends an electrical signal toward the cell's interior to make it change its behavior. And sometimes, if the external signal is very strong or persistent, the effector sends a messenger down to the nucleus, the librarian, and says, "Hey, we need to adapt to this. Take out blueprint number 45, open the inflammation gene." Do you see it? The nucleus did not decide to open the gene. The nucleus knew nothing. It was the membrane that smelled the danger outside, made the executive decision, and sent the order to the nucleus. DNA does not control the cell. The membrane controls the DNA. And here comes the million-dollar question, the one that gives the power back to you. If the membrane controls the genes based on what it reads from the environment, what is the environment of your cells? Your cells do not live in the external world. They do not live in your office or your house or in traffic. Your cells live inside you. Their world, their atmosphere, is your blood. The culture medium of your 50 trillion cells is the blood and the interstitial fluid. And what controls the chemical composition of your blood? Your nervous system, your brain, your perception. When you perceive the world as a hostile place, your brain releases cortisol and norepinephrine into the blood. The membrane of your cells reads the cortisol through its antennas. Membrane's interpretation: the boss says we are at war, close the gates, stop growth, shut down the immune system, prepare for combat. And your disease genes activate. When you perceive the world as a loving place, or when you are in gratitude, your brain releases oxytocin, dopamine, and growth hormone. The membrane reads these chemicals. Membrane's interpretation: the boss says we are safe. Open the windows, absorb nutrients, repair tissues, grow. And your health and longevity genes activate. You are the boss. You are the one who decides what the weather is like in the universe of your cells. The membrane is the faithful brain that translates your worldview into tangible biology. You are not a victim of your genes. Your genes are slaves to your perception. And the membrane is the intermediary, the translator, the guardian of the threshold that converts the immaterial, a thought, into material, a protein. The alchemist at the threshold and the placebo effect. Now that we have understood the physical machinery, let's take the step towards metaphysics. Because calling the membrane brain is correct, but calling it a biological computer chip is even more accurate. And every computer needs a programmer. In 1949, the philosopher Gilbert Ryle coined a famous phrase to criticize the mind-body dualism: the ghost in the machine. Materialist science has always loved the machine, the body, the cells, the DNA, but has denied the ghost, consciousness, spirit, mind. They tried to explain life by studying only the gears, ignoring the electricity that moves them. The cell membrane is the exact place where the ghost meets the machine. It is the sacred frontier where spirit touches matter. Think about it. The membrane separates the self, the cell's interior, from the non-self, the exterior. It is the definition of biological identity. In fact, on the surface of your cells exist antennas called self-identity receptors, major histocompatibility complex. These are antennas that tell your immune system, this cell is mine, do not attack it. Curiously, those antennas do not look inward, they look outward. Your biological identity does not come from within. It comes from an external signal that touches your antennas. If you cut off those antennas, the cell loses its identity. This suggests something profoundly mystical. You are not inside your body. You are a signal that is transmitted to your body. Your body is a television set with antennas, membrane receptors, tuned to the U channel. If the television breaks, physical death, the signal, the soul consciousness, continues to exist, only it no longer has a physical receiver to manifest in 3D. But let's return to Earth, to the alchemy of daily health. If the membrane is the chip that processes information, what is information? Until recently, we believed that information was only chemical, hormones, drugs, nutrients. That is why modern medicine is pharmacological. Take this chemical pill to fix your chemical cell. But quantum physics tells us that everything is energy. Atoms are not solid things, they are vortices of energy. Molecules are patterns of vibration. The cell membrane, being a liquid crystal, is extremely sensitive to vibrations. The membrane's antennas do not need to physically collide with a molecule to react. They can react to resonance, they can react to light, they can react to sound, they can react to thought. This explains the greatest and most ignored medical mystery in history, the placebo effect. The placebo effect is the irrefutable proof of the alchemical capacity of the membrane. Let's analyze what happens in a placebo. You have terrible pain or deep depression. You go to the doctor, an authority figure. He gives you a sugar pill but tells you with conviction, this is a new miracle drug that will cure you in 24 hours. You believe him. Your mind accepts that truth. Your perception changes. You go from fear, I am sick and there is no solution, to hope and certainty, I am already taking the cure. That thought of certainty changes the electromagnetic frequency of your brain and the chemistry of your blood. Your brain releases endorphins and natural opiates that are more potent than morphine. The membrane of your cells picks up that new signal. The membrane does not know the pill was sugar. The membrane does not care about the pill, it cares about the signal your perception sends it. And since the signal says healing in process, the membrane activates the repair mechanisms. And you heal. You really heal. The pharmaceutical industry hates the placebo. They see it as an annoying variable that ruins their clinical trials. But for the epigenetic alchemist, the placebo is the holy grail. The placebo proves that belief is more powerful than matter. It proves that the ghost, your belief, can reprogram the machine, your cells, through the membrane interface. But beware, because this sword is double-edged. There is the nocebo effect. It is the opposite. If you firmly believe that something is going to harm you, it will harm you, even if it is holy water. If you read on Google that your disease is incurable and degenerative, and you accept that information as an absolute truth, you're giving your membranes a hypnotic command. Close the repair factories. The verdict has been delivered. Deteriorate. And your cells will obey. Because they are faithful. Because they follow the signal from the environment that you provide them. The cell membrane is a gatekeeper. It is the bouncer at an exclusive nightclub. Outside there are millions of signals. Viruses, bacteria, nutrients, toxins, thoughts of love, thoughts of fear, news from television, music. The bouncer decides who enters, but the bouncer follows the orders of the club owner, and the owner is you. If you are in a state of chronic stress, you yell at the bouncer, "No one enters, we are under siege." The membrane becomes rigid, it closes, and do you know what happens when the cell closes? Nutrients don't enter. The cell becomes malnourished even if you eat well. Toxins don't leave. The cell becomes intoxicated with its own waste. New information signals don't enter. The cell isolates itself, gets sick and dies. Or worse, it mutates and becomes cancerous, a cell that has decided to survive on its own, disconnected from the whole. But if you practice coherence, meditation, forgiveness, you tell the bouncer, "We are at peace. Friends are welcome." The membrane relaxes. It becomes permeable and flexible. Nutrients enter, waste leaves, communication flows, life thrives. Chapter 5. The Chemistry of Attention. We live in an economy of distraction. The modern world is designed with terrifying algorithmic precision to capture, fragment, and monetize your most precious resource, your attention. I'm not talking about your time. Your time is finite, yes, but your attention is generative. Where you put your attention, you put your life. But what almost no one tells you, not in school, not in the news, not even in most medical offices, is that your attention is not just an abstract mental function. It's not simply looking at something. Your attention is a physical force. It is a laser beam of coherent energy capable of altering the behavior of subatomic matter and, by extension, your own biology. To understand the power that is dormant in your frontal lobe, we must visit the most baffling experiment in the history of physics, the double-slit experiment. If you are unfamiliar with it, I'll summarize it briefly, because its implications for your health are devastating or miraculous, depending on how you use them. Physicists discovered that when they shoot particles, like electrons, toward a barrier with two slits, matter behaves schizophrenically. If no one is watching, the electron behaves as a wave. That is, it is pure potentiality. It passes through both slits at the same time. It is everywhere and nowhere. It is a ghost of possibilities. But the moment a scientist places a detector to observe which slit the electron passes through, snap, the wave collapses. The electron stops being an ethereal possibility and becomes a particle. It becomes a solid, fixed material point. The mere act of observing froze reality. The consciousness of the observer forced the energy to take a defined form. This is called the observer effect. Now let's take the quantum leap towards biological alchemy. You are made of atoms. Your atoms are made of subatomic particles. Therefore, you are a walking quantum wave. Your body, your health, and your genes exist in a state of superposition of possibilities. At this very instant, in your quantum field, there exists a version of you who is sick and a version of you who is radiantly healthy. There is a version of you who is aged and one who is regenerated. All are waves of possibility floating in the ether of your DNA. What determines which of those possibilities collapses and becomes your physical reality tomorrow morning? Your observer. And who is the observer? Your conscious attention. Herein lies the fundamental problem of modern human health. Most of us are terrible observers. We are observers of fear. When something hurts or when you receive a diagnosis that frightens you, what do? You put all your attention on the problem. You obsess, you Google the symptoms. You look in the mirror searching for the spot. You talk about your illness with your friends. You think about the pain before you sleep, and it's the first thing you check when you wake up. Is it still there? Yes, it's still there. From the perspective of alchemical epigenetics, what you are doing is an act of involuntary black magic. By observing your illness with an attention charged with fear and fixity, you are collapsing the wave of illness over and over again. You are solidifying it. You are telling the quantum field, this is real. Keep this here. In quantum physics, there is a phenomenon called the quantum Zeno effect. It posits that an unstable system, like an atomic nucleus about to decay, will never change if it is observed continuously and constantly. The observation freezes the state of the system. It does not allow it to evolve. Apply it to your body. If you observe your aching knee every second with the belief of it hurts, it's wrong, it won't heal, you are applying the Zeno effect. You are preventing the biology from flowing. You are freezing the inflammatory state through your mental fixity. Attention is energy, and energy is food. What you withdraw your attention from withers. What you give your attention to grows. If you feed your past trauma with constant memories, you give it biological life today. If you feed your catastrophic future with constant worries, you are building it brick by brick in your present. But let's not linger in metaphysics. Let's go to the hard chemistry. How does looking translate into molecule? Your brain is the transformer. When your attention focuses on a threat, real or imaginary, your hypothalamus activates. Your focused attention on fear. What if this is cancer? What if I get fired? What if I'm not enough? Sends a specific electrical signal. That signal forces your brain to secrete specific neuropeptides. In this case, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. These chemicals travel through your blood. They reach the cell membrane, our famous cell brain. The membrane reads the chemistry, and since the chemistry is alert, the membrane orders the nucleus. Stop digestion, stop DNA repair, stop the immune system, prepare the muscles for running, inflame the tissues to defend against wounds. All of this happened because you looked at something with fear. Your attention created the chemistry. The chemistry selected the gene. The gene created the illness. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine you are able to withdraw your attention from the pain or fear, not by denying it, but by choosing not to feed it. Imagine you direct your laser beam toward an image of yourself healthy, strong, laughing, running. Or you simply bring your attention to your breath, to the present moment, to the feeling of gratitude for being alive. Your brain shifts gears. The focus of attention changes the electrical signal. Now you secrete dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, vasopressin. These chemicals travel to the membrane. The membrane reads safety, pleasure, connection. Order to the nucleus. Activate telomerase, rejuvenation. Activate T lymphocytes, kill viruses. Repair collagen. Digest nutrients. The observer has changed, and therefore the observed reality, your body, begins to change. This is the secret that great yogis and healers have known for millennia. It is not that they had supernatural powers. It is that they had absolute mastery over their attention. They knew that attention is the chisel with which we sculpt reality. If your chisel trembles anxiety, the sculpture comes out deformed. If your chisel is firm and guided by a vision of beauty, the sculpture is a work of art. In this first part, I want you to feel the weight of your responsibility. You are the director of the movie of your life. Until now, you have let the camera, your attention, obsessively film the horror scenes, repeating them on a loop. It is time to move the camera. It is time to understand that, in the nucleus of your cells, there is a cloud of possibilities waiting for you to decide what you are going to materialize with your gaze. Schrödinger's cat is both alive and dead in your blood. You decide which one comes out of the box. The alchemical fire and directed neuroplasticity. If the first part was about the physics of the problem, this second part is about the mechanics of the solution. Let's enter the laboratory. We are going to learn how to use the magnifying glass of your mind to burn the old code and activate the new. Attention is not just an on-off switch. Attention has quality and temperature. In the alchemical tradition, the element fire is essential for transmutation. Without heat, lead does not melt and cannot turn into gold. In your biology, that fire is focused emotional intensity. Modern neuroscience has coined a phrase that summarizes this. Neurons that fire together, wire together. But there is a lesser-known corollary. Neurons that are out of sync lose their link. This is the basis of neuroplasticity. Your brain is clay, not porcelain. It can be remodeled. When you withdraw your attention from an old pain or an old narrative, I am sickly, I am unlucky, you are literally stopping the watering of those neural connections. Over time, those synaptic highways are dismantled. They physically disappear. You forget how to be the old victim. And when you put your repeated attention, charged with elevated emotion, on a new truth, I am pure vitality, you are building new roads. At first they are dirt paths, but if you maintain the focus, sustained observer effect, they become concrete highways. There comes a point when being healthy becomes automatic. It becomes your new default state. But how is this done in practice? Because I know what you are thinking. It's very hard to stop thinking about the pain when I'm hurting. You are right. It is the greatest challenge of the human being. Pain screams, health whispers. Pain is evolutionarily designed to hijack your attention because it is a survival signal. This is where the technique of neutral observation, or the silent witness, comes in. It is a quantum hacking technique. Normally, we observe our symptoms with judgment and resistance. My back hurts, damn it, I hate this. It's never going away. That judgment is the emotional charge that keeps the circuit on, Zeno effect plus cortisol. The alchemical trick is to observe the sensation without the emotional label. It consists of separating the pure physical sensation, pressure, heat, ache, from the mental story. It's terrible. It's going to kill me. Let's do a mental experiment right now. If you have any pain or discomfort in your body, or any trapped emotion, anxiety in your chest, bring your attention there. But don't go as a victim. Go as a curious scientist. Go as an explorer who has just landed on a new planet. Don't call it pain. Don't call it anxiety. Those are words from the past. Call it energy. Call it intensity. Ask yourself, what color is this sensation? Does it have a shape? Is it round? Is it sharp? Is it moving or is it still? Does it have a temperature? By doing this, be observing the raw data, qualia. Without the narrative of suffering, you are doing something miraculous in your brain. You are moving neuronal activity from the amygdala, the center of primitive fear, to the prefrontal cortex, the center of conscious analysis and will. You are deactivating the stress response. You are cutting off the fuel supply to the fire. When you observe a sensation without judging it, you take away its power to harm you emotionally. And curiously, when you remove the resistance, the energy starts to flow. The Zeno effect is broken. The solid particle of pain returns to being a wave, and as a wave it can move, disperse, and transform. Many patients with chronic pain experience that by looking at their pain with neutral curiosity instead of fear, the pain changes location, dissolves or simply stops mattering to them. That is alchemy. You have transmuted the experience. But there is a higher level, the level of the creator-observer. Once you have neutralized the negative, you must use your fire to create the new. This is where holographic visualization comes in. Studies with Olympic athletes and pianists have shown that the brain does not distinguish between doing something real and imagining it vividly. In both cases, the same brain areas activate and the same muscles strengthen. Yes, you can gain muscle strength just by imagining lifting weights. Studies prove it. To edit your DNA epigenetically, it is not enough to think, I want to be healthy. That is a weak desire. It is a blurry signal on the radio. You must be the health in your mind before it occurs in your body. You must close your eyes and build the complete sensory experience. How would it feel to walk without pain? Don't think about it. Feel it. Feel the lightness in your legs. Feel the gratitude in your chest. Feel the smile on your face. Feel the wind on your skin. You must generate the emotion of the outcome before the outcome arrives. In the Newtonian model, old, we wait to see to believe. When I get cured, I'll be happy. In the quantum model, alchemical, we believe to see. I am happy and grateful now, and that signal attracts healing. Gratitude is the supreme state of the receiver. When you give thanks, you are telling the universe and your cells that the event has already occurred. If you give thanks for your healing before you see it, your body, which does not distinguish between reality and vivid imagination, begins to produce the chemistry of healing now. Your attention is the pen. Your emotion is the ink. Your body is the paper. Most people write smudges of fear. You are going to start writing calligraphy of light. But a warning, this requires discipline. The chemistry of attention is volatile. If you spend 10 minutes meditating and visualizing health, but then you spend 16 hours complaining, stressing, and focusing on the problem, guess who wins? The majority wins. Epigenetic work is not a magic pill you take once. It is a lifestyle. It is constant mental hygiene. It is catching yourself observing the disaster and saying, "Cut, that's not the movie I want to produce." and redirecting the focus over and over again, 1,000 times a day if necessary, until your attention becomes so disciplined that your mere presence is healing. There are stories of spontaneous remissions, cancers that disappear in weeks, bones that heal in record time. Medical science often calls them miracles or statistical anomalies. They are not. They are cases of people who achieved a change in their observer so radical and complete that their biological reality had no choice but to collapse into a new form to match the new signal. They stopped being the sick person. They became, in their mind and energy, a new person, and the body, a faithful servant, followed them. Chapter 6. Biophotonics. Close your eyes, do it now. What do you see? You will probably say, I see darkness, or perhaps if you are in a brightly lit room, you might see a reddish glow through your eyelids. But if we had eyes capable of seeing in the ultra-weak spectrum, if we could amplify our vision 1,000 times, what you would see when you look in the mirror in a totally dark room would not be a shadow. You would see a bright silhouette. You would see a being made of faint starlight, blinking, pulsing, breathing luminosity. For millennia, mystics, saints, and shamans have been depicted with halos of light around their heads or bodies. In Christian, Buddhist, and Hindu iconography, enlightenment was not just an intellectual metaphor for knowing a lot. It was a literal description. It was said that beings of high consciousness shone. Modern science, in its usual cynicism, dismissed this as religious folklore. Flesh is opaque, they said. Biology is wet, dark chemistry. They were wrong. Today, thanks to the revolutionary field of biophotonics, we know that the legend is a physical fact. You emit light. It is not heat, infrared radiation. It is visible light, real photons. Your hands emit light. Your forehead emits light. Your chest emits light. And the source of that light is not the skin, friction, or digestive metabolism. The source of that light is your DNA. To understand the magnitude of this, we must travel to Germany in the 1970s and meet a biophysicist named Fritz Albert Popp. Popp was researching a cure for cancer. His theory was that cancer was not just a chemical error, but an information error. He suspected that cells had a way of communicating that science ignored. Popp built an extremely sensitive machine, a photomultiplier capable of detecting the light of a firefly miles away. His goal was to see if living cells emitted any radiation. He placed a plant under the detector in absolute darkness. The machine began to click, 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 click. The plant was emitting photons, few but constant. The poor, thinking it was a mistake, he tested animal cells, then human cells. The result was always the same. Everything alive emits light. Popp discovered that the DNA inside the cell nucleus acts as an optical resonant cavity. Imagine a microscopic laser. The double helix structure of DNA is perfect for trapping and storing photons. DNA absorbs light from the environment, from the sun, from food, and stores it in its vibrational structure. But it doesn't keep it. It uses it. DNA emits pulses of coherent light, laser-like, to communicate with other cells. Here we solve one of the great mysteries of biology that chemistry could never explain: the speed of life. Think about it. In each of your cells, approximately 100,000 chemical reactions occur per second. If these reactions depended on molecules randomly colliding with each other, floating in the cellular liquid until they meet, as taught in basic chemistry, life would be too slow. You would be a metabolic sloth incapable of thinking or moving. For 100,000 synchronized reactions to occur per second in 50 trillion cells at once, a signal that travels at the speed of light is needed. There is no time to send chemical letters. Fiber optic calls are needed. Your body is a biological fiber optic network. When you cut your finger, the cells in the wound emit a massive burst of ultraviolet light. It is a distress signal. That light warns neighboring cells, miles away cell distance, to activate repair protocols. It is not magic. It is photonic technology. This radically changes our definition of health. In Popp's experiments, he discovered something fascinating about the quality of the light. Healthy people emit coherent light. Coherence is the property that distinguishes a laser from a light bulb. In a light bulb, Photons shoot out in all directions, chaotic, colliding with each other. They scatter. In a laser, photons march in line, synchronized, phase with phase. They have perfect order. That's why a laser can cut steel or carry information to the moon. Your health is directly proportional to the coherence of your light. When you are healthy, your DNA emits laser-like ordered, structured light. Your cells sing the same song. Information flows without noise. But when Pop analyzed cancer cells, he saw chaos. Cancer is incoherent light. Tumor cells have lost connection with the network. They emit light in a disordered, frenetic way, or sometimes turn off and steal light from neighbors. Cancer is a luminous cacophony. It is static noise on the body's radio. This validates the concept of illness from energetic and shamanic medicine. Illness does not start in the molecule. It starts in the light. First, the light field, your light body or biophotonic aura, is distorted. That distortion creates an incoherent signal. The incoherent signal confuses the chemistry. And finally, the erroneous chemistry creates the tumor or the ulcer. Treating the tumor with a scalpel without correcting the light is like changing the burnt-out light bulb without fixing the short circuit in the wiring. It will burn out again. Understanding that you are a being of light is not New Age poetry. It is a biophysical fact your DNA is a photon storage unit. And if you are light, that means you are an antenna. An antenna designed to interact with the source of all light in our system, the sun and the zero-point field. Have you ever wondered why you feel so different on a sunny day by the sea compared to under the fluorescent lights of an office? It's not just vitamin D, it's photonic nutrition. Your eyes, your skin, and your DNA are drinking information from the sun. But to understand how we process that immensity of solar information without burning up, we need to understand the geometry of your antenna. We need to understand fractals, sacred geometry, and the sun diet. Welcome to the engineering of the divine. If we wanted to build an antenna capable of capturing all possible radio frequencies, FM, AM, Wi-Fi, TV, satellite, we would need a giant and complex antenna. Nature solved this engineering problem millions of years ago with an elegant solution, the fractal design. A fractal is a geometric figure that repeats itself at different scales. The classic example is Romanesco broccoli, a fern or a snowflake. If you look at a branch of a fern, it has the same shape as the entire fern. If you look at a small leaf on that branch, it has the same shape as the branch. As above, so below. The quintessential Hermetic principle is, in reality, a description of fractal geometry. Your DNA is a fractal antenna. It is folded onto itself in a precise mathematical way. The double helix coils into nucleosomes, which coil into chromatin, which coils into chromosomes. Thanks to this fractal structure, your DNA is capable of resonating with an immense range of frequencies. It can capture very long waves, radio waves, Earth's Schumann resonances, and very short waves, ultraviolet light, cosmic rays. This means you are physically connected to the cosmos. Solar storms affect your heart rate. It is scientifically proven. Lunar cycles affect your neurotransmitters. It is not superstitious astrology. It is biological resonance. Your antenna is picking up the fluctuations of the solar system's electromagnetic field, and your biology dances to the rhythm of that music. But here is where your alchemical power comes in. If you are a light antenna, the quality of your life depends on two things. 1, the quality of the light you receive, input. 2, the cleanliness of your antenna, processing. Let's talk about light ingestion. Erwin Schrödinger, the father of quantum physics, wrote a prophetic book called What is Life? In it, he proposed that living beings feed on negative entropy. Simply put, we feed on order. When you eat an apple, you're not just eating calories, vitamins, and fiber. That is the materialist view. You are eating stored sunlight. Photosynthesis is the process of trapping photons from the sun and freezing them into carbon bonds. The plant is a light battery. When you bite the fresh apple, your digestion breaks those bonds and releases the photons inside your body. Your DNA absorbs that coherent light and uses it to recharge its own battery. Here is the key to vibrational nutrition. A newly picked apple has a very high biophotonic emission. It shines with ordered light. It gives you life, order, coherence. A processed hamburger, cooked in a microwave, full of preservatives, and dead months ago, has zero biophotonic emission. Or worse, it has chaotic emission, entropy. When you eat dead or processed food, your body has to spend its own energy to process that inert matter. It steals light from you. When you eat living, raw, fresh, sun-filled food, it gives you light. Do you want to increase your vibrational frequency? It is not a metaphor. Eat light, expose yourself to the sun. We have demonized the sun. We hide from it under layers of toxic cream. But the sun is the father of our DNA. You need the light of sunrise and sunset, when there is no harmful UV, to synchronize your biological clocks. The technique of sungazing, looking at the sun during safe hours, or simply exposing bare skin to natural light, recharges your DNA's resonant cavity. It organizes your photons. But there is an even more powerful source of light than the sun or food, your own consciousness. Let's return to coherence. Remember, health makun laser, illness naked broken light bulb. What is the thing that most disorders the light in your body? What causes static interference in your fractal antenna? Emotional stress. Fear, anger, resentment, and guilt are dissonant frequencies. Imagine your DNA as an orchestra playing a perfect light symphony. Suddenly, fear enters. Fear is like a musician who starts playing out of tune and out of time. That dissonant wave clashes with the coherent waves. What is known in physics as destructive interference occurs. The waves cancel out. The light goes out. Stress literally darkens your light. It turns off your glow. That's why we say someone who is depressed looks dim or grey. Conversely, high-vibration emotions, love, gratitude, compassion are hypercoherent waves. Studies conducted by the HeartMath Institute have shown that when you feel sincere love, the electromagnetic field of your heart becomes mathematically ordered. That field envelops your DNA and acts as a tuning fork. It forces the DNA to come into phase. If you meditate on gratitude, you are turning your body into a biological laser. You are aligning your 50 trillion cells to point in the same direction. And here we come to the most esoteric and powerful implication of biophotonics, holographic healing. If your body is light, and if you can direct that light with your mind, because attention directs energy, then you can use your own light to heal yourself and others. Have you ever felt someone look at you from behind and you turn around? How did you know? That person sent a beam of biophotons with their gaze. The gaze emits real energy. Your antenna, your skin DNA, picked up the impact of that light and warned you. Now imagine using that consciously. Imagine directing your attention, your coherent light towards a sick organ in your body. Not with fear, oh it hurts, but with laser intention of love and order. You are projecting coherent light onto a chaotic light zone. According to the principle of entrainment, the strongest and most ordered vibration will force the weak and disordered vibration to synchronize. Your consciousness is the master laser. Your tumor is the chaos. If you maintain the light focus long enough, the chaos surrenders and returns to order. This is the basis of laying on hands, Reiki Qigong. It is not faith, it is physics. The healer emits a massive flow of biophotons from their hands. It has been measured in the lab. The hands of Qigong masters emit 100 times more light than those of a normal person. That light floods the patient's body and reminds it how to be coherent. It gives it back the original score. You are a lighthouse, literally. Your DNA is emitting a signal to the universe at this very moment. That signal contains information about who you are, how you feel, what you think, and what you believe. The universe, the quantum field, receives that luminous signal and responds by returning a reality that matches your frequency. If you emit the light of lack, the universe returns lack to you. If you emit the light of gratitude, the field acts as a mirror and returns more reasons for you to be grateful. The law of attraction is not mental magic. It is biophotonic resonance. You attract what you are and you are light. But what kind of light are you emitting? Are you a laser that cuts through darkness and creates a path? Or are you a flickering light bulb about to burn out? Alchemical Epigenetics gives you the switch. You control the voltage, you control the coherence. Feed yourself with sun. Feed yourself with living food. Feed yourself with noble thoughts. Clear your fractal antenna of the dirt of drama and fear. When you do this, something wonderful happens. You stop being just a biological body struggling to survive. You start to shine. And when you shine with enough intensity, you don't just heal yourself. You become a lamp for others. Your mere presence, your mere biophotonic field, begins to order the chaos around you without you having to say a word. That is the true meaning of being an enlightened one. It is not knowing everything. It is emitting a signal so pure that darkness cannot exist in your presence. Chapter 7, Language and Telomeres. In the beginning was the Word. It does not say in the beginning was the atom, nor in the beginning was the light. All the great spiritual traditions, from the Bible to the Vedas, agree on a fundamental point. Creation is a sonic act. The universe was spoken into existence. In Aramaic, the famous word of the magicians, abracadabra, is not a children's game. It literally means I create as I speak. However, in our modern, noisy society, we have devalued the word. We use it as filler. We talk just to talk. We use language to complain, to gossip, to passively describe how bad the world is or how tired we are. We have forgotten that the word is not just air leaving the lungs and vibrating the vocal cords. The word is an acoustic pressure wave capable of organizing matter. And most importantly for you today, the word is the programming code for your biological clock. To understand this, we need to talk about telomeres. If you looked at your chromosomes through a powerful microscope, you would see that they are shaped like an X. On the 4 tips of that X, there are protective caps. Imagine your shoelaces. On the tips, they have a hard plastic aglet that prevents the lace from fraying. Those are the telomeres. They are repetitive sequences of non-coding DNA whose sole mission is to protect the integrity of your genetic information. But there is a design flaw. Every time your cells divide to regenerate your body, something that happens constantly, they have to copy their DNA. In that copying process, the biological machine cannot copy every last letter of the end. It loses a small piece. So with each cell division, your telomeres shorten a bit. They wear down. When the telomere becomes too short, the cell can no longer divide. It enters senescence, cellular old age, and dies. Or worse, the DNA frays and errors occur that lead to illness. The length of your telomeres is your real biological age. It doesn't matter how many candles you blow out on your birthday. What matters is how much plastic is left on your laces. For decades, this wear was thought to be mechanical and inevitable, like the wear and tear on car tires. The rate of shortening was thought to be fixed, but in 2009, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn won the Nobel Prize for discovering telomerase, an enzyme capable of rebuilding telomeres, capable of extending life. And what controls telomerase? What accelerates or slows down aging? This is where biology meets language. Blackburn and other researchers discovered that the #1 factor that destroys telomeres is perceived psychological stress. Note the word, perceived. It is not what happens to you. It is what you say to yourself about what happens to you. If you are stuck in traffic and your inner dialogue is, "This is unbearable, my life is being stolen, this always happens to me, I'm going to explode," your body reacts to those words as if you were being chased by a lion. You release cortisol. Cortisol suppresses telomerase. Your telomeres break. You age instantly. If in the same traffic jam your inner dialogue is, "Wow, a moment to listen to music or breathe. Everything is fine. I'll arrive when I arrive," the stress response turns off. Telomerase protects your chromosomes. You stay young. Your body is listening to your inner monologue 24 hours a day. And here comes the terrifying truth. Your cells have no sense of humor. Your cells are literal. When you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, even in jest, "What a face, I look like a corpse, I'm exhausted, I want to die." Your nervous system does not interpret irony. Your nervous system interprets commands. The brain decodes the syntax, "I am plus exhausted." It sends the signal to the cell membrane. The membrane informs the nucleus, and the genetic machinery begins working to fulfill the command. Your body says, "The boss says he's exhausted and wants to die. Let's accelerate apoptosis, cell death. Let's shorten the telomeres. Let's shut down mitochondrial energy." You have cast a spell on yourself. The word spell and the word deletrear, to spell in Spanish, have the same root. Spelling is casting a spell. Every time you use the verb to be or to have, followed by a negative adjective, you are cursing your own biology. I am diabetic. No, you have a temporary insulin imbalance, but by saying I am, you turn it into identity. You record it on the hard drive. I have a bad memory. You are ordering your neurons to stop creating new synapses. This allergy is going to kill me. Your telomeres tremble at the vibration of the word kill. There is a fascinating study on voodoo and psychogenic death. When a shaman curses someone in a tribe and says, "You will die in 3 days," and the person deeply believes the shaman's word, that person dies. Their heart stops. The autopsy reveals no poison or wound. They die of fear. They die because the word became flesh. In our civilized society, we don't have shamans with bones in their noses, but we have doctors in white coats. When a doctor tells you you have 6 months to live, they are casting a hex. If you accept that word as an absolute truth, your biology will shut down in exactly 6 months. It is the nocebo effect. But there are patients who say, "That is your opinion, not my destiny." They reject the word. They rewrite the script, and they live 20 years longer. Language is the user interface of your reality. Most people use that interface to program viruses and errors into their system. They spend the day repeating mantras of destruction. I have no money. I have no time. I'm fat. I'm old. Nobody loves me. And then they wonder why their life reflects exactly that. It's not bad luck, it's biological obedience. Your DNA is the genie in the lamp, and you are asking it for garbage. In this first part, I want you to become aware of the linguistic diet. We take care of what we eat, calories, fats, but we eat toxic words all day long. Your telomeres are listening to every conversation you have. They are listening when you complain on the phone to your friend. They are listening when you insult the politician on TV. Every word of anger, judgment, or victimhood is a molecular scissor cutting the threads of your life. Do you want to live longer? Silence the complaint. Do you want to heal? Stop talking about your illness as if it were your property. My arthritis, my migraine. It is not yours. It is a visitor. The first step of alchemy is the impeccability of the word. Before speaking, ask yourself, will what I'm about to say build my cells or destroy them? If it is destruction, swallow the word. Transmute it into silence, because your body is the book you are writing out loud. The syntax of creation and wave genetics. If the first part was about how not to destroy ourselves, this second part is about how to rebuild ourselves. We are going to learn how to use the voice as a regeneration laser. Let's return to cutting-edge science. The Russian biophysicist Pyotr Gurdjieff, whom we discussed earlier, made a discovery that irrefutably links linguistics with genetics. He analyzed the mathematical structure of DNA sequences and compared it with the mathematical structure of human language. The result was astonishing. The syntax of DNA and the syntax of human language are identical. Subject, verb, predicate, grammar, punctuation. The nucleotides of DNA are not randomly placed, they follow grammatical rules. This means one of two things. Either our language is an external projection of our genetic structure, or our DNA is specifically designed to be reprogrammed through language. Gurdjieff tested the latter. He used radio frequencies modulated with linguistic patterns, words and sentences, to irradiate seeds destroyed by radiation, dead seeds with broken DNA. He didn't use chemicals, he used coded speech. The seeds resurrected. Their chromosomes repaired themselves. Healthy plants grew. This proves that DNA understands language. But it doesn't understand just any language. DNA responds to frequency, intention, and image. It is not enough to repeat like a parrot, I am healthy, if inside you feel fear and see images of illness. That is noise. For the voice command to work and activate telomerase, it must have coherence. This is where cymatics comes in. Cymatics is the study of visible sound. If you put sand on a metal plate and vibrate it with sound, the sand forms perfect geometric patterns, mandalas. If you change the sound to a dissonant one, noise, the sand becomes chaos. If you introduce harmonic sound, classical music, Gregorian chants, pure vowels, The sand forms beautiful, complex, sacred geometries. You are 70% of water. Your cells are bags of water with minerals, sand. When you speak, your voice travels through your skeleton and your fluids. You are literally vibrating your own cells. If your voice is charged with love, certainty, and calm, you are creating mandalas of order in your cellular water. You are structuring your DNA. If your voice is full of hatred, fear, or doubt, you are creating molecular chaos. How do you talk to your cells? Here is the Verbal Alchemist's instruction manual. 1. The power of I am. These are the two most powerful words in the universe. In Hebrew, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, it is the name of God. Anything you place after I am is a command of absolute identity for your biological unconscious. Stop saying, I want to heal. That implies you are not healthy now, it implies lack. Start saying, I am health. I am vitality. By speaking in the present and in identity, you force biological reality to align with the definition. 2. Speak in present. Progressive DNA lives in the eternal now. It does not understand tomorrow. If you say, I will be cured, the DNA says, okay, we'll wait. And the cure never arrives because it is always in the future. The correct command is, my cells are regenerating now. My body is recovering its perfect balance at this instant. 3. Tone and frequency. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. A whisper charged with intense intention is more powerful than an empty scream. Use your deep voice. Chest resonance has more structuring power over the body's water than head or throat voice. Speak with authority. Do not beg your cells, do not plead with them. You are the captain, they are the crew. They await clear orders. Say, I command my telomeres to lengthen. I command my immune system to scan and eliminate any threat. I thank you for your service. First, chanting and mantra. Chanting is not just for fun. Chanting lengthens the exhale, activates the vagus nerve, and puts the brain in an alpha-theta state, the state of hypnosis and reprogramming. Ancient Sanskrit or Latin mantras, Om, Amen, Shalom, are not magical words for their semantic meaning, but for their vibrational effect. The sound ooh resonates in the chest and heart. The sound resonates in the skull and pineal gland. When you chant an Om with your full lung capacity, you are massaging your endocrine glands and aligning your chromosomes with a perfect geometric frequency. You are tuning your instrument, the script rewriting ritual. I propose an applied epigenetics exercise. Identify a family curse, a phrase that repeats in your family. Example, everyone in this family has a weak heart, or the women in this family suffer in love, or life is hard and you have to fight. These are linguistic viruses that have been passed down from generation to generation, shortening everyone's telomeres. You are going to break the pact. You are going to write a counter-decree, sit in silence, put your hand on your heart to connect the emotion, and say aloud, firmly, so your own ears hear you. I break and dissolve any vow, promise, or curse of illness and lack that I have inherited from my lineage. That story ends with me today. I am the beginning of a new timeline. I decree that my heart is strong. I decree that my blood is pure. I decree that my telomeres are long and bright. I speak life to my cells. I speak light to my bones. It is done. It is done. It is done. When you do this with conviction, something changes in the atmosphere of the room, and something changes inside your skin. You feel a chill. That chill is the release of trapped energy. It is your DNA responding to the voice of its master. Words can hurt and words can heal. But beyond that, words can create. You are the narrator of your biology. If you don't like the chapter you are living, stop rereading it. Stop telling everyone about it. Take the pen, take your voice, and start dictating a new paragraph. Surprise yourselves with a story of joy, strength, and miracles. They are eager to make it real. They are just waiting for you to give the command. Chapter 8. Non-Linear Chronology. If I ask you what is the past, you would probably tell me it is something that has already happened. You would tell me it is unchangeable, written in stone, a closed file. You would tell me that the past is the cause, and you are the effect. I am insecure because my father yelled at me. I have stomach problems because I experienced a lot of anxiety in school. The cause and effect logic is the basis of our Newtonian worldview. The arrow of time travels forward. Yesterday creates today. But what if I told you that arrow can turn? What if I told you that, on a quantum and neurological level, the past is not a stone monument, but a cloud of soft clay that can still be molded? And what if I told you that your cells don't know what year it is? Welcome to nonlinear chronology. For your DNA, time does not exist. DNA is a biological molecule, and like all matter, it lives in an eternal present. Your cells do not have calendars hanging on their membranous walls. They react exclusively to the chemistry in your blood at this precise instant. Herein lies the great tragedy and the great opportunity of human health. When you remember a traumatic event from 20 years ago, say, a public humiliation or an accident, your conscious mind knows that it already happened. You know you are sitting safely on your sofa in the current year. But your primitive brain, the limbic system, and your body do not know it. Neuroscience has demonstrated through fMRI scans that when you bring a high-emotion memory to your mind, exactly the same neural networks are activated as were activated when the event originally occurred. For your brain, you are not remembering, you are reliving. And since the brain does not distinguish between reality and vivid visualization, it sends an immediate order to the adrenal glands. Danger! We are under attack! Your body releases the same toxic soup of stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, that it released 20 years ago. Your cells bathe in the same corrosive acid. Your digestion stops. Your immune system is depressed. Your telomeres shorten. All this is happening now, triggered by a ghost from then. This means that, biologically speaking, the trauma did not happen in the past. The trauma is happening today. You have spent 20 years biochemically recreating the event day after day every time you recall it, or something unconsciously triggers it. You have turned a 5-minute event into a 20-year life sentence. For your epigenetics, you never left that room where you were hurt. You are still there. Time froze. But quantum physics brings us a hopeful piece of news: retrocausality. In the strange world of particles, time is symmetrical. The equations work the same way forward as backward. There is a famous experiment called the delayed choice quantum eraser. Without getting into dizzying technicalities, the experiment demonstrated something that shook the foundations of physics. A decision made by an observer in the present can affect the behavior of a particle in the past. It seems like magic, but it is replicable science. What you do today can change the story of how light traveled yesterday. If we apply this principle to the biology of consciousness, which is a quantum phenomenon, we arrive at an astonishing conclusion: you can travel to the past. Not with an H.G. Wells-style metal machine, but with the machine of your focused consciousness. You can go back to the moment of trauma. You can enter that memory, and you can change it. I don't mean denying the historical facts. This didn't happen. Facts are facts. I mean changing the emotional imprint and the interpretation of the event. I mean changing the chemistry associated with that memory. When you do this, when you alter the emotion of an old memory, something called memory reconsolidation occurs. For decades, psychologists believed that memory was like a video file saved on the hard drive. Once saved, it was unchangeable. Today, we know that memory is more like an open Word document. Every time you access a memory, you bring it to consciousness, the memory becomes unstable. It becomes liquid for a few moments. It is malleable. If in that moment of instability you inject a new emotion, compassion, power, laughter, and then you save the memory again, the memory is stored modified. Physically, the synaptic connections change. The next time you recall the event, it will no longer carry the burden of pain. It will carry the new emotion that you inserted. You have changed your past. And by changing your past, you have changed the signal that past was sending to your DNA today. You have stopped the chronic hemorrhage. You have freed your cells from the prison of time. In this first part, I want you to understand that the wounded child that psychology talks about is not a poetic metaphor. It is a real neural structure in your brain that got frozen in time, repeating a loop of fear. That child lives in you, and that child is controlling your adult biology. If you are 40 years old, but react with tantrums or panic to authority, it is because biologically you are not the 40-year-old adult. You are the 5-year-old child who has taken control of the control panel. Your DNA is receiving orders from a frightened child. That is why you get sick. Because an adult body cannot sustain itself with the operating system of a traumatized child, it is time to go looking for him. It is time to use the epigenetic time machine, not to analyze the past. Analysis is paralysis. Understanding why something happened to you does not cure you. We are going to go to the past to rescue you. We are going to go to tell your ancient biology that the war is over. The temporal rescue and the collapse of the timeline. How is this done? How is the film reel edited? We enter the practice of matrix re-imprinting. Imagine that your life is a timeline. You are at the point now. The trauma is at the point back. Normally, we look back with helplessness. We see the child we were suffering loneliness, abuse, or fear, and we feel pity for him. We say, "Poor little thing, he had it so bad." That passive compassion is useless. In fact, it reinforces the victim identity. The alchemist does something different. The alchemist dissociates. The adult you of today, the one who has resources, who is strong, who has survived, is going to mentally travel backward to meet the child you. You are going to become the protector that child never had. We are going to visualize the process, because I want you to learn how to do it. It is the most powerful healing tool that exists. Step 1. Locate the root scene. Close your eyes, think of a negative pattern in your current life. Say, fear of abandonment. Feel that fear in your body. Where is it? In your chest? In your stomach? Follow that thread of sensation backward, as if following a rope in a dark cave. Ask yourself, when was the first time I felt this? Let your unconscious throw you an image. Do not force it. Perhaps you appear at age 6, waiting at the school gate to be picked up, and no one arrives. You feel the terror, the cold, the feeling of, I don't matter. Step 2. The quantum intervention. Now here comes the game changer. In the original memory, you, the child, are alone. In this new version, you are going to introduce a new character into the scene. Yourself, as an adult. Visualize yourself entering that school scene. Enter with your current body, your current wisdom, and perhaps surrounded by a golden light of protection. The child, your past self, sees you arrive. You walk up to him, you kneel down to his height, you look him in the eyes, and you do what no one did at that moment. You hug him. You explain to him what is happening. You say, "Hello, little one. I am you from the future. I have come to find you. I have come to tell you that you are not alone. Dad was late, but it's not because he doesn't love you. It's because he had a problem. But look at me. We survived. We grew up. We became someone strong. I am here to take you out of this moment." In your visualization, observe how the child's face changes. It goes from terror to relief. Feel physically in your adult body the sigh of relaxation. That sigh is the drop in cortisol. That sigh is your telomeres stopping their breakage. Step 3. The power action. Now ask the child, what do you need to feel safe right now? Maybe the child wants to leave there. Maybe he wants to scream. Maybe he wants an ice cream. Maybe he wants to destroy the school with a magical laser beam. Give it to him. In the imagination, everything is possible and everything is real for the brain. If the child wants to leave, take his hand and lead him to a safe place, a garden, a beach, or your current home. Take him out of the trauma timeline. Step 4. Cellular reprogramming. Once the child is safe and happy in your visualization, feel that new memory settling. Now, your brain has 2 files about that event. 1, the old file, I was abandoned, I am alone, low frequency. 2, the new file, I was rescued, I am loved, my future self protects me, high frequency. Since the mind always prefers the option that gives it more pleasure and security, if you repeat this visualization several times with emotional intensity, the brain will start to choose the new file as the predominant truth. The neuronal connection of the trauma weakens, synaptic pruning. The connection of security strengthens. What has just happened on an epigenetic level? You have changed the signal. Until today, every time your unconscious scanned your past, it found a red alert at age 6. That alert sent a constant signal of insecurity to your adult cells, keeping you in a state of chronic inflammation or anxiety. Now, when your unconscious scans the past, It finds a green light. It finds resolution. It finds love. The alarm signal turns off. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the one for healing and regeneration, takes over. Your cells say, the danger has passed. We can let go of the weight now. We can digest now. We can heal now. This is literal. People who do this inner child healing work report miraculous physical changes, chronic back pain that disappears, allergies that remit. Allergies are often a defense response to a world perceived as hostile. Autoimmune problems that calm down. The body stops attacking itself because it stops hating itself. Non-linear chronology allows you to be your own redeemer. You don't have to wait for your parents to apologize. Perhaps they never will, or perhaps they have already died. You don't have to wait for the world to change. You have the power to go back and give yourself what you lacked. You can be the father you needed. You can be the defender you needed. And there is an even more mysterious effect, the domino effect in time. When you heal a key moment in the past, the root trauma, a chain reaction occurs forward. If you heal the 6-year-old child, the 15-year-old teenager who acted out of rebellion born from that wound also changes. The 20-year-old changes. You rewrite your entire history. Suddenly you realize that you are no longer the victim of a difficult childhood. You are now the hero of a story of overcoming. That change in identity changes your body posture, changes your voice, changes your gaze, and changes the expression of your genes. Remember, DNA is an Akashic record. It stores history. But you are the editor. You are not obliged to keep the sad chapters. You can put notes in the margin. You can change the ending of the past chapters. Yes, the abuse occurred. That is a fact. But the eternal loneliness of the child is no longer a fact, because you have gone there and filled it with your presence. You have changed the physics of the memory. Chapter 9. The activation of the final codon. Imagine you buy the most advanced computer in the world, a quantum machine with infinite processing power. You take it out of the box, turn it on, and discover that by default it comes installed with a basic operating system, designed only for writing text notes and simple arithmetic. You know the machine can simulate galaxies and compose operas, but the installed software does not give you access to those functions. The icons are there, grayed out, inactive. If you try to click on them, a message appears. Access denied. User update required. That computer is you. Your biological body is the most sophisticated piece of engineering in the known cosmos, but you have been operating all your life in survival mode. Survival mode is the basic operating system. Its functions are limited but effective for keeping you alive in the jungle. Detect threats, flee predators, search for food, reproduce, and sleep. Modern medicine, traditional psychology, and conventional education have focused exclusively on optimizing this basic system. They teach you to survive better. They give you pills so the engine lasts longer. They teach you to compete for resources. But you know deep in your intuition, that voice that whispers when everything is silent, that there is something more. You know you did not come to this world just to pay bills, avoid viruses, and die of old age. You feel there are grayed-out icons on your inner screen. Capabilities for intuition, instant healing, telepathic connection, unwavering peace. The good news is that those icons are not fantasy. They are real hardware. They are genetic sequences that you already have installed. To understand this, let's talk about codons. The language of DNA is written with 4 chemical letters: A, T, C, G, adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine. These letters group into triplets to form words. Each triplet is called a codon. For example, the triplet ACG is an instruction. The triplet GGT is another. The math is simple. With 4 letters grouped 3 by 3, there are 64 possible combinations, 64 codons. However, here comes the great mystery. Of those 64 possible codes, standard human biology only uses 20 amino acids to build all the proteins in your body. We have 64 words in our genetic dictionary, but we only use 20 to write the novel of our life. What happens to the rest? Science says they are redundant. They say several codons mean the same thing, or that they are punctuation codes, start or stop reading. Alchemical Epigenetics proposes a different view. Nature is not redundant. Nature does not waste capacity. Those 64 codons correspond curiously to the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, the ancient Chinese Book of Changes, and to sacred geometry structures like the 64-sided tetrahedron. The hypothesis is that those extra codons are not redundant, they are latent. They are applications that are pre-installed but locked with a password. They are dormant, waiting for an activation signal that the survival environment cannot provide. As long as you live in fear, hurry, and stress, your biology interprets that you are in the jungle. And in the jungle, you don't need spiritual superpowers, you need adrenaline and tense muscles. Activating high perception in the middle of a war would be a waste of energy and a dangerous distraction. Therefore, the system keeps those codons off. It is a safety mechanism. It is called the stop codon. It is a chemical instruction that says, stop here, read no further. The protein ends here. The human ends here. But the war is over. Or at least it should be over inside you. We are entering a new evolutionary era. Lions no longer chase us. Our threats are mental and energetic. And to face those threats, the old operating system is no longer useful. In fact, it is crashing. Global anxiety and depression are the symptoms of a hardware trying to run new software with old drivers. We need to unlock the next level. We need to go from the stop codon to the start codon of the next evolutionary octave. We call this multidimensional DNA activation. And what happens when these latent switches are activated? The first thing that emerges is not the ability to levitate or walk on water, although anything is possible at high power. The first and most vital thing that emerges is spiritual immunity. We must redefine the word immunity. In the old paradigm, war model, immunity is defense. Your immune system is described with military language: killer cells, natural killer cells, antibodies, attack, defense. It is assumed that the external world is hostile, full of viruses, bacteria, and enemies, and that you are a besieged fortress. Health, under this view, is having high walls and aggressive soldiers. But this view has a terrible cost. Living in permanent defense is exhausting. And worse, sometimes the soldiers get confused and attack the fortress itself, autoimmune diseases. Spiritual immunity, or vibrational immunity, operates under a totally different paradigm, the model of frequency and compatibility. In physics, two waves of very different frequencies do not interact. They pass through each other without affecting one another. Darkness, fear, illness, manipulation vibrates at a very low, slow frequency. Light, love, sovereignty, coherence vibrates at a very high, fast frequency. If you raise your vibrational frequency, activating those latent high-capacity codons, you become invisible to the low frequency. A virus, which is an opportunistic low-vibration entity, does not find a grip in a body that vibrates in high vitality. It's not that your soldiers kill it, it's that the virus arrives, looks around and says, "There's no environment for me here. There is no food, fear, there is no chaos," and it leaves, or dies of starvation. The same thing happens with toxic people, with alarmist news, with emotional dramas. When you activate your spiritual immunity, you stop getting hooked. The insult of another passes through you as if you were transparent. It doesn't hurt you, because there is no open wound, low frequency in you where that insult can resonate. This is true freedom. It is not hiding from the world. It is being in the world but not being of the world. It is walking through a hospital and not being afraid of contagion, not out of recklessness, but out of certainty of vibration. The final codon is the switch that turns off the identity of victim of circumstances and turns on the identity of sovereign creator. It is a real biological change. When this happens, your thymus gland, the center of physical and energetic immunity, located in the center of the chest, awakens. The Greeks called the thymus thymos, which means energy of the soul. They knew that courage and dignity resided there. In modern adults, the thymus is often atrophied, shrunken. It becomes a raisin. We have lost our spiritual immunity, and that is why we are so easily manipulated by fear. But the thymus can regenerate. The codons can be turned on. The update is ready for download. The question is, are you willing to reboot the system? The diamond body and the technology of ecstasy. How do we press the update button? It is not done by thinking. Thought is too slow and linear for this operation. It is done by feeling. It is done through altered states of consciousness and the physiology of ecstasy. To activate the latent codons, we need a high-voltage electrical signal. The normal signal of your day-to-day life, worry, routine, boredom, has a very low voltage. It barely serves to keep the lights on. It does not have the power to break the seal of encrypted files. You need an energy peak. This peak is known in mystical traditions as Kundalini, Holy Spirit, Chi, or Samadhi. In scientific terms, it is a massive neuroelectrical event involving the heart and brain entering super-gamma coherence. Let's look at the mechanics of this process. The protagonist of this activation is a small crystal located in the geometric center of your skull, the pineal gland. The pineal is not just an evolutionary vestige or a metaphorical third eye. It is a piezoelectric transducer. Inside the pineal gland are microcrystals of calcite, apatite, and magnetite. They have piezoelectric properties, which means that if you squeeze them, mechanical pressure, they release an electrical charge and photons of light. How do you squeeze the pineal? Through breathing and the pumping of cerebrospinal fluid. When you perform deep, rhythmic breathing, pranayama or kundalini yoga techniques, contracting the perineum and abdominal muscles, you push the cerebrospinal fluid upwards towards the brain. Upon reaching the top, this fluid pressures the pineal. This mechanical pressure activates the crystals. The pineal lights up electrically. It starts to shine, literally, emits biophotons. It generates an intense electromagnetic field. And then, the chemical alchemy occurs. The pineal stops producing melatonin, the sleep hormone derived from serotonin, and begins synthesizing advanced metabolites. It transmutes melatonin into potent endogenous hallucinogenic neurotransmitters such as pineal benzodiazepines and, theoretically, DMT, dimethyltryptamine. These are not drugs. They are the molecules of enlightenment. They are chemical keys designed by your own body to open the doors of perception. When these chemicals bathe your neocortex and limbic system, the signal reaching your cells changes drastically. It is no longer the signal of survive. It is the signal of evolve. It is a signal of ecstasy, unconditional love, total unity with the cosmos. Under the influence of this chemistry of God, the DNA receives a jolt. The high frequency of the emotion, which is magnetic, and the coherent light, which is electrical, unwind the parts of the DNA that were hidden. The brakes are released. The forbidden codons are read. Your body starts manufacturing new proteins, more robust proteins, proteins that capture light better. Literally, your carbon-based structure, which is dense and absorbs light, begins to evolve towards a more crystalline structure, metaphorically called the silicon or diamond body, which allows light to pass through it without resistance. You become a superconductor of consciousness. This is spiritual immunity in action. A superconductor has no resistance. Electricity flows infinitely without being lost to heat. When you are spiritually immune, the negative emotions of others find no resistance in you. They don't heat you up. They don't make you angry. They flow through and dissolve. The toroidal shield practice. To anchor this activation and protect your new frequency, you need to visualize and activate your electromagnetic field. Your heart generates a field in the shape of a torus, like an apple or a giant donut of energy, that extends 2 to 3 meters around your body. This is your true immune system. It is your deflector shield. Daily activation exercise. 1. Centering. Standing or sitting, close your eyes. Bring your attention to the center of your chest, thymus, and heart. 2. Ignition. Breathe deeply and evoke an emotion of gratitude or appreciation. Feel the warmth in your chest. Imagine a miniature golden sun in your heart. 3. Expansion. With each exhale, visualize that golden light leaving your heart and forming a sphere around your body. It envelops you completely. 4. The cycle. Feel how the energy exits through your head, North Pole, descends around you to your feet, and re-enters through the base of your spine, South Pole, to rise to the heart. It is a continuous source of energetic recycling. 5. The decree. While holding this image, internally say, I activate my spiritual immunity. Only truth and love can cross this threshold. Everything of a lower frequency dissolves upon contact with my field. I am sovereign in my energy. When you do this, you are programming your aura. You are informing your DNA that you are safe, protected, and ready to operate at high frequency. You will notice the difference immediately. You will walk into a place full of stressed people, and it will not affect you. You will encounter someone trying to manipulate you, and you will see their intentions clearly, without fear, like one who observes a child having a tantrum. You will have more energy at the end of the day because you are not leaking energy in useless defenses. The awakening of the final codon is the end of fear, and the end of fear is the beginning of true human life. We are designed to be embodied gods, creators of worlds, architects of reality, but we got stuck in level 1 of the video game, fighting basic monsters, forgetting that we have the code to skip levels. Your biology is not your destiny, it is your starting point. You have the equipment, you have the antenna, you have the nuclear reactor in your cells. Now you have the manual. Stop asking permission to shine. Your immunity does not come from a vaccine or a mask or a government or health insurance. Your immunity comes from your divinity. It comes from remembering, on a cellular level, that you are an eternal spark of the source and that nothing real can be threatened. Chapter 10, Homo Luminous. We have reached the end of the journey, but in the spiral of the DNA, every end is simply the beginning of a higher turn. Over the past 9 chapters, we have dissected your biology. We have traveled into the cell, conversed with your ancestors, dissolved traumas with the mind, and learned that light is the fundamental language of your existence. Now we must step back. We must look at the big picture. What is the use of all this? What is the ultimate purpose of activating your DNA, lengthening your telomeres, and lighting up your pineal gland? Is it just so you can live a few more years without back pain? Is it so you have less stress at work? No, those are secondary benefits. The real purpose is much bigger, much more terrifying, and much more beautiful. The purpose is the evolution of the species. Wherever you look today, you see chaos. You see climate crises, economic system collapse, pandemics, political polarization, mass anxiety, structural depression. The world seems to be breaking into pieces. It is easy to fall into despair. It is easy to think that humanity is a failed experiment, a planetary virus destined for self-extinction. But alchemical epigenetics offers us a different lens through which to view this disaster. In biology, there is a phenomenon known as punctuated equilibrium, proposed by Stephen Jay Gould. Evolution is not always slow, gradual, and linear as Darwin thought, an imperceptible change every 1,000 years. Sometimes evolution takes quantum leaps. For millions of years, a species remains the same. And suddenly, under extreme environmental pressure, a massive, rapid, and radical mutation occurs. In a matter of a few generations, something completely new emerges. Imagine a caterpillar. When the caterpillar enters the chrysalis, it does not quietly grow wings. First, the caterpillar dissolves. Literally. It turns into an unrecognizable biological soup. Its immune system attacks its own cells because it does not recognize what is happening. It is total chaos. It is a biological identity crisis. Everything the caterpillar was dies. But in the middle of that soup of chaos, there are special cells called imaginal cells. These cells contain the blueprint of the butterfly. At first, they are few. The caterpillar's immune system tries to kill them, but they multiply. They connect with each other. They resonate together. And a critical point is reached where the soup stops being soup and organizes into a new structure, capable of flight. You are an imaginal cell. Current humanity is the dissolving caterpillar. The chaos you see in the news is the old structure, the ego, competition, fear, separation, melting away. It has to hurt. It has to break. Because a structure designed to crawl on the ground cannot sustain flight. We are in the birth canal of a new species. Anthropologists and mystics agree. Homo sapiens, the man who knows, has reached its limit. Our neocortex has given us technology to destroy the planet, but not the wisdom to save it. We have maximized logical intelligence, but we have atrophied heart intelligence. If we remain only sapiens, we will become extinct. Nature, in its infinite intelligence, is pressing the button for the next mutation. We are transitioning towards Homo Luminous, the man who radiates. What is Homo Luminous? It is not an alien. It is what you become when you apply everything we have learned in this book. It is a human being whose biology has shifted from being based on dense carbon, survival, fear, density, to being based on a liquid crystalline structure, light, information, unity. Let's talk about the science behind this mutation. Dr. Bruce Lipton and other leading biologists suggest that human evolution is no longer physical. We are not going to grow 3 arms or wings on our backs. Evolution is now internal and energetic. The mutation is happening in the capacity of our nervous system to process light and electricity. The average Homo sapiens operates with a low voltage. Their nervous system is wired to process 3D reality, objects, physical dangers, food. Their perception is limited to the visible spectrum, less than 1% dollars of reality. The Homo Luminous is updating its wiring to support high voltage. When you clear your traumas, somatic archaeology, when you stop wasting energy on fear, conscious attention, and when you activate your pineal, you are increasing the voltage of your body. You are allowing more consciousness, more soul, to enter the physical body without blowing the fuses. This transition is not easy. Many of the strange physical symptoms people feel today, chronic fatigue with no medical cause, ringing in the ears, intolerance to certain foods, night awakenings, extreme sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, are not necessarily diseases. They are growing pains. It is your body trying to calibrate to a planetary frequency that is rising. The Earth's Schumann resonance is increasing. Your dense biology is being cooked by the light. Homo sapiens lives in separation. I am me, you are you, and I have to defend myself from you. Homo Luminous lives in connection. I am one cell in the same body as you. If I hurt you, I infect myself. This is not a moral idea. It is a biological reality for the new human. Their empathy is so developed, thanks to mirror neurons and the heart field, that violence becomes impossible because they feel the pain of the other as their own. We are leaving behind the era of survival of the fittest. We are entering the era of prosperity of the most coherent. You who are listening to this are the bridge. You are the hinge generation. You have 1 foot in the old world. You have fears, you have bills, you have an aging body. And 1 foot in the new world. You have intuition, you have longings for transcendence, you have moments of light. Your job is difficult. It is exhausting. You have to clean up the karma of thousands of years of ancestors, as we saw in Chapter 2, while trying to build a new life. Sometimes you will feel alone. Sometimes you will think you are crazy. But remember the chrysalis. The butterfly is not crazy for wanting to fly while everyone else is crawling. The butterfly is the inevitable destination. In this first part, I want you to embrace your crisis. If your life has recently fallen apart, if your old ways of being no longer work, celebrate it. It is the shell breaking. Stop trying to glue the pieces of the old caterpillar back together. Dedicate your energy to imagining the wings. Total transparency and the legacy of the stars. What will the world be like when Homo Luminous is the norm and not the exception? And more importantly, how can you start living as one of them today, here and now? The defining characteristic of this new species is transparency. In a world of Homo sapiens, lying is a survival tool. We hide what we think, we pretend, we have secret agendas. But remember, the Homo Luminous is an antenna of coherent light. Lying is a distortion in the wave. Lying creates destructive interference. For a high-vibration being, lying is physically painful. It is like swallowing poison. Furthermore, as we develop our sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, our intuition, lying becomes obsolete because it becomes visible. It is already happening to you. Don't you notice that it is increasingly difficult for someone to deceive you? Don't you feel the dissonance in your stomach when someone tells you something false? We are moving toward a telepathic society, not in the sense of reading phrases in the mind, but of reading intentions and states of being. In a world where the truth cannot be hidden, the structures of control based on secrecy collapse. Political corruption, media manipulation, double lives, all of that requires darkness to exist. The Homo Luminous brings so much light that the shadows have nowhere to hide. Living in radical transparency requires courage. It means being authentic 100% of the time. It means that your word, your thought, and your action are aligned. That is coherence, and coherence is perfect health. The second trait is sovereignty. Homo sapiens seeks God outside. They seek health in the doctor, security in the government, happiness in the partner, salvation in the Messiah. The Homo Luminous knows that he is the portal. He knows that his DNA is the Akashic Record. He knows that his cell membrane responds to his perception. He does not surrender his power. He uses medicine, yes, but as a tool, not as a religion. He participates in society, yes, but he does not depend on external validation to know who he is. He becomes his own priest, his own healer, his own master. And here we come to the final concept, morphic resonance. Biologist Rupert Sheldrake proposed that when a sufficient number of individuals of a species learn a new behavior, it becomes automatically accessible to the rest of the species, even if they have no physical contact. It is the famous 100th monkey phenomenon. Every time you, in the privacy of your room, manage to transmute a fear into love. Every time you choose to forgive instead of attack, every time you breathe and activate your pineal, you do not do it only for yourself. You are uploading a file to the cloud of human consciousness, the noosphere. You are making it a little easier for the rest of humanity to access that state. You are creating a morphic field of enlightenment. Your grandmother did not have the tools you have. Your great-grandfather did not know what you know. You are the tip of the spear. By healing your epigenetics, you are clearing the road for those who come after. Your children, or the world's children if you have no biological children, will inherit a cleaner genome thanks to your work. They will inherit less propensity for fear and more propensity for love. They will inherit longer telomeres. You're giving them an evolutionary advantage that cannot be bought with money. So when you feel small, when you think that your 20-minute meditation is useless in a world of 8 billion people, remember the physics. A small laser cuts more than a giant light bulb. One person in coherence, vibrating high, counteracts the vibration of thousands of people in chaos, vibrating low. You are the world's tuner. The final ritual, integration. To close this book and this chapter of your life, I ask you to make a commitment, not to me, to yourself and to the life that animates you. Put your hands over your chest, one over the other. Feel the heartbeat. That drum is the rhythm of the universe dancing within you. Imagine for a moment that all your cells become transparent, made of liquid diamond. Visualize that your spine is a pillar of light, connecting the center of the earth to the center of the galaxy, and say, aloud, or in the thunderous silence of your mind, I accept the mutation. I accept my role as a bridge between heaven and earth. I release the old human, the human of fear, the human of the victim. I thank him for bringing me this far and I let him go. I welcome the Homo Luminous. I am the light observing itself. I am the scribe of my own biology. I am the guardian of my frequency. From today forward, every word I speak will be a code of creation. From today forward, every gaze will be an act of healing. I am awake. I am connected. I am ready. Feel that declaration resonate in the water of your body. It is not just poetry. It is an epigenetic instruction. Your genes have just received the update command. Conclusion. The fertile silence and the beginning of the great work. Over the last few hours, we have walked together through the microscopic corridors of your being. We have descended into the darkness of the cell nucleus and ascended into the light of the quantum fields. I have given you maps. I have given you the theory of navigation. I have shown you where the hidden switches of your biology are and how your voice and gaze can turn them on. But a map is not the territory, and an instruction manual is not the flight. Now begins the true alchemy. And alchemy, my friend, does not happen in theory. Alchemy happens in the mud of daily life. It is easy to feel like a Homo Luminous while listening to these words, protected in your meditation bubble, inspired by the promise of evolution. The real challenge and the true mastery begins when you take off your headphones and face the first low vibration test of your day. It will be an unexpected bill. It will be an argument with your partner. It will be a sudden pain in your knee. It will be terrifying news on television. In that precise instant, the universe will be asking you a question. Who are you now? Are you the old victim who reacts with fear, cortisol, and contraction, putting the codons we just woke up back to sleep? Or are you the alchemist who breathes, observes the situation without judgment, remembers their sovereignty, and consciously decides what chemical cocktail they want to serve their cells? That microsecond of decision is the great work. That is where the telomeres lengthen. That is where the trauma is rewritten. Not in the Himalayan cave, but in the supermarket line. Not on the weekend spiritual retreat, but on Monday morning. I want you to take with you one absolute certainty. Your body is always listening. You are never alone. Even in the deepest silence of solitude, you have an audience of 50 trillion living beings, your cells waiting for your next instruction. They are loyal unto death. If you doubt, they doubt. If you love yourself, they cooperate. If you abandon yourself, they panic. We have talked a lot about science, photons, and membrane receptors. But if I had to summarize this entire journey in a single word, that word would not be epigenetics. It wouldn't even be DNA. The word would be love. But not the romantic, sentimental love of pop songs. I am talking about love as a physical force, as a cosmological constant. Love is the frequency of maximum coherence. Love is the only signal that can penetrate all barriers, relax all membranes, and heal all wounds. Loving yourself is not an act of vanity. It is an act of biological engineering. When you treat yourself with compassion, when you speak to yourself with kindness, when you forgive your mistakes, you are optimizing your operating system. You are creating the perfect environment for your Akashic Record to download its wisdom. It is possible that in the days to come you will feel fear. It is possible that you will fall into old patterns. It is possible that you will get sick or stressed. When that happens, and it will happen, because you are human and the process is not linear, do not judge yourself. Judgment is toxicity. Simply observe it. Remember the chapter on attention. Be the witness. And gently, with infinite patience, get back on the horse. Choose the light again. Mastery is not about never falling. It is about reducing the time it takes to get up. What used to take you weeks of depression will now take days, then hours, then minutes, until you reach the point where the correction is instantaneous. I also want to remind you of your responsibility. By receiving this knowledge, you have lost the right to ignorance. You can no longer say, "I didn't know my thoughts were making me sick." Now you know, and this knowledge brings a duty to the collective. The world is thirsty. Humanity is lost in a desert of fear and disconnection. You have become a well of water. By keeping your frequency high, by taking care of your inner garden, you become a living option for others. Without preaching, without convincing, your mere presence demonstrates that it is possible to live differently. Your regulated nervous system will calm the anxious nervous systems around you. Your coherence will order the chaos in your home and at your work. That is your mission. You don't have to save the world. You just have to heal yourself, and the world will change around you. So take one last deep breath with me. Inhale the infinite possibility. Exhale any residue of limitation. Feel your body, not as a flesh machine, but as a galaxy of vibrant stars, held together by the gravity of your consciousness. You are the guardian of an ancient treasure. You are the editor of a sacred book. You are the point where the past dissolves and the future is created. The book ends here, but your life, your true life, has just begun. Don't fall asleep again. The light is on, the door is open. The scribe has the pen in his hand. Make it a masterpiece.